until Monday. Baloyi objected to Mshololo's use of language.
I strongly object to the language employed by my learned friend, say that we are dishonest. We are officers of this court, will never be dishonest. No, English is not our language, but I suppose that's not really what, or I want to believe that's not what my learned friend is implying, but we will never be dishonest.
Okay, thank you, my lord. They are honest. The state is honest, my lord.
Looking at election news now, the IEC is reminding South Africans that the deadline for the special vote applications will close tomorrow. There are two categories of special votes. The first are home visits for those registered voters who are infirm or have impaired mobility. Such voters may apply to be visited at home or a place of confinement, whilst the second category of special votes is available to any registered voter who wishes to vote early at their voting station. South Africa goes to the polls on the 29th of this month. And police are now forcibly removing barricades set up by pro-Palestinian protesters around a Gaza solidarity encampment at the University of California, Los Angeles in the U.S. The police action follows an hours-long standoff where they threatened people who refused to disperse with arrest. This comes a day after the encampment was attacked by a pro-Israeli group in some of the worst violence seen since the student solidarity protests began on campuses around the U.S. Our correspondent Sherwin Bryce Peace reports from New York.
The sounds of flashbangs or fireworks could be heard going off as the police began removing metal and plywood barricades around the tent encampment on the UCLA campus, where flags including the Palestinian and South African colors could be seen. The encampment was earlier surrounded by a larger crowd, including people who locked arms in an effort to stymie law enforcement. Student demonstrations, which began at Columbia University and then spread throughout the U.S., are demanding universities disinvest their holdings from companies doing business with Israel as it prosecutes its war in Gaza. Several hundred student arrests have now been made around the country. Sherwin Bryce's SABC News, New York.
The top story at 3 o'clock, former ANC president and now leader of the newly formed MK party, Jacob Zuma, is expected to be hauled before an ANC disciplinary hearing on Tuesday next week. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
Coming up in your sports, the Sao box boss receives an honorary doctorate from NWU, where sanctions Tunisia for non-compliance with the anti-doping code. And then I get to put a spotlight on Kirsten Neuschafer, who's a finalist in the SA Sports Awards. I'll have more on this and other sports stories at 3:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, leading the conversation.
Catch the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday at 7 on SABC2. It's Elimination Week, and contestants must make big things happen as they fight to stay in the competition. Their task? To create an impressive tower of baked items in a test of skill and creativity. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster SA. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
Hello, Your Choice Hotline.
Hi, I need you to help me make a choice.
Well, with Ford, you get to make your own choices. Like on brand new Ford Ranger XL, XLT, or Wildtrak Supercabs from only $7,999 per month with no deposit needed. There's a flexible deal for every Supercab at your nearest Ford dealership today. Your Ford, your choice. TNCs apply.
The debate of universities will be witnessed on the field of play. The varsity derby between Amatax ladies and UJ ladies. Who are the most intelligent students? This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria ladies versus University of Johannesburg ladies on Sunday 5 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Now, today I want to talk about something rather different to start the show. Yesterday, I attended the funeral of the now late Dr. Yaqub Isaac. And what is so significant about that is that it was a huge crowd. The funeral was about quarter past 10 at night. Massive crowd at the actual funeral. He was buried last night. But that's just one part of it, okay? The week before that, he had a heart attack, okay? But the week before that, I played with him on a paddle court on the Saturday and the Sunday, right? And then a week later, this is what happens. Now, that's just one part of a friend, okay, who was my neighbor, who we were squash partners and then paddle players and friends for over 3 decades. But the other is that he's a medical doctor. He was the former president of the IMA, the Islamic Medical Association. He also headed up the medical mission of the Gift to the Givers in South Africa and when they were abroad as well, and did that on many all-important trips around the world, as you would know. Okay? So he's a significant player, certainly within the medical fraternity and the Gift of the Givers. And yet he's no more. And last week, when we played that paddle game a week before he passed away, not only did we play, we spoke off court for an hour about a whole range of things, nostalgia, reminiscing, talking about the upcoming election, and so on. And I'm not going to tell you what he said. Accepting this, the big lesson that we all have to learn from this, right, is that we plan and God plans, and the reality is tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow is not promised to any one of us. Tomorrow is not guaranteed to any of us. And the question is, how then do we internalize that fact? We plan, we dream, we have a vision, but tomorrow is never promised. I'm Ashraf Garda. And that's my point.
Hello, South Africans. The African People's Convention is participating in the 2024 elections nationally and provincially. We urge all South Africans to vote APC for service delivery, to fight against corruption, hunger, poverty, and unemployment. The APC will abolish the corruption policy of denying employment to those who are 36 years and above. The APC will protect and guarantee their right to be employed in government. On the 29th of May 2024, vote APC. Vote for Themba Godi to go back to Parliament.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Well, this is the National Pulse, and do you have a feel for the National Pulse? What are you feeling right now? Nationally, internally, domestically, at home, abroad? Everything connects ultimately to what your pulse rate is all about, and what do you feel? And you've heard my tribute in terms of that's my point to Dr. Yaqub Isaac, and the point that I've made is that tomorrow is never promised, right? So share with me your thoughts about the concept of tomorrow not being promised, and you maybe in the past spending an hour with a person, playing a game of whatever, and then spending an hour talking to that person about a range of things, and then suddenly a few days later, that person is no more. And I'm sure, sadly so, that every one of us has a story like that. I have a story like that now, right? But you have a story like that too. So if you like to share that story with us, internalize it, because I want to get your story. You can WhatsApp us in text form as well as in calling in. That's via WhatsApp with a voice note, or you can actually call in live. You know that. I will certainly take your calls. As always, your positions and your opinions matter. You can also tweet us using the hashtag #TheNationalPulse, and more of the same. You can just tag us on SFM Radio. That's on the Twitter X platform as well as on SFM Radio. So always your thoughts on that opinion really do matter about the concept of tomorrow is never promised. And have you had an experience like that where someone you chat to is not there just a couple of days later. Now, that's one part of it. There's a lot more we're going to be talking about. In fact, we'll chat to Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman later on from The Gift of the Givers, paying tribute in his own way to Dr. Yaqub Ishak. That comes up later. There's also the situation that Johannesburg, many parts of that area around the double-decker highway, still without lights because of that underground cabling that went on fire because of an attempted theft. And we're going to certainly cover that story. And I understand that Turkey, as a country now supporting the South African position regarding the ICJ against Israel, regarding the Israel genocide claim or allegations. We're going to talk about that too. But first things first, you may have heard this already. It's a story we absolutely cannot ignore because that affects the national pulse more than anything else. The story we have right now is that the African National Congress, they're expecting to call up the former President Jacob Zuma to a disciplinary committee hearing on May the 7th our year, right? So let's find out more about it. The ANC not quite commenting at this point in time, but we do have with us the MK Party spokesperson, Ntlamulo Ndlela. So good chatting to you as always. Thanks, you're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you, right. So can you confirm that this is the position? Because we're a bit unclear in terms of official organizations. From your side, I understand that the MK Party has got confirmation that your leader will appear before an ANC disciplinary committee meeting next week.
Yes, this is correct. President Zuma will be appearing before the disciplinary hearing, committee for the hearing on Tuesday, the 7th of May.
Have they elaborated in terms of the letter or documentation in terms of what is the hearing about?
Well, in the charge sheet, they have a number of charges that they've stipulated there. They range from him making and pronouncing that he'll be voting and campaigning from Conto Caesar. And there's a number of other issues that they raise in terms of him having contravened some of their procedures and policies as per their constitution. So that's effectively the basis at which he will be appearing.
Okay, what is his reaction upon receiving this DC summons of sorts?
No, President Zuma is not perturbed at all, and President Zuma is not a coward. He will appear and he'll be present, to face those charges.
Okay, why will he appear? I'm just trying to understand it. I know he's technically still a member of the ANC, but he's with another party.
Well, President Zuma has always said, even at the time when he made the pronouncement on December 16th, 2023, that, he's always been a member of the ANC and he'll die an ANC member. And he's always said that. But however, he cannot campaign for the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa that is bought. So that's that. He's appearing as per, his requirement that he appear.
And in him appearing, does he have the support of the MK Party in appearing?
He's our president. We're going to be there in our numbers. We need to support President Zuma.
No, I hear the point about numbers, but what I'm saying, are you supportive of him actually appearing? Or would you have advised him otherwise?
We are President Zuma appearing is him appearing and us supporting him.
Okay. I'm paraphrasing here. I think the other former president, Thabo Mbeki, commented a few days ago that any form of action against Jacob Zuma in the build-up to the election is rather unwise in terms of sidetracking the bigger issues. And I am paraphrasing you on this one here. Do you agree with that? That it's an issue that the ANC can do without, and an issue that in many ways provides further opportunity for the MK Party to brand itself nationally outside Jacob Zuma's own issues with the ANC?
I would say those are wise words that for the first time I'd hear from President Mbeki this year, that he is correct. What is the rush for them to bring President Zuma, before their DC? Why can't they wait until after elections? It just doesn't make sense.
Has former President Jacob Zuma asked for a postponement to just that, to say, defer till after the election? We're like less than a month to go now.
No, initially they requested that it be done via Zoom, and the legal team then said no, it would not be feasible. It was best that he become, that he's present. That was postponed, and then this time around he will attend But it has been postponed, and we've never requested a postponement besides that.
So you have requested a postponement, or you haven't?
No, we haven't requested a postponement since then, since the postponement of the Zoom.
Right.
Yes.
And the date is May 7th, right? Is that confirmed from your side?
May 7th, 10 o'clock. Correct.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that in the context of the summons to appear before the DC and the fact that we have, this is for a former president who's still a member of the ANC, who's the leader of the MK?
Well, what I'd like to add is that, you would have seen with the sequence of events and all sorts of legal cases being brought forth, all sorts of, from the ANC, from the IEC. We don't understand, what this whole fuss is about. And that's why we've won all these cases and we continue to win. And that's just a clear demonstration that it's a desperate act on their end. And if I were them, I would have listened to their leader in the form of President Mbeki, who would have, for the first time, given them wise words, which are, what is the rush and why the desperation? So I'll leave it at that.
Is there any opportunity, and this is the last question, is there any opportunity for let's call it talks before the talks? That means some sort of a mediation before the disciplinary hearing so that it does not take place because it possibly doesn't suit anybody?
That would have to come from their end, I guess. So they initiated the process, so if they were to bring that forth, President Zuma and the legal team will make a determination. Till then, we are attending as per their request. So
former President Zuma will not pursue it preemptively, yeah?
No, we're following a process here. So, we have to adhere to a process that has been requested, and President Zuma is doing exactly that. If there's anything else outside of that is brought forth, we'll look at it. But at this point, we've been requested that President Zuma attends, and he's going to be there in flesh and blood.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. As we said, this is a show that effectively gets you to feel the pulse of the nation, and we certainly feel it. Ntlamulo Ndlela, the MK party spokesperson, now confirming that former President Jacob Zuma will appear before a ANC disciplinary committee hearing on the 7th of May, and he's confirmed that he will attend, and the MK supporters will be there as well. Now, what do you make of it? You as a member of the citizenry that makes up the country, I'm pretty sure you have your own opinion. So here's the thing to you. What's your point?
SAFM leading the conversation.
Hi guys, your favorite mom vlogger here, talking all things family entertainment with Deal or No Deal now on SABC2 weekdays at 6:30 p.m. Umalume is trying to make it onto the show and have his life changed quick. Amanda Malume. Mama and I are the number one Mubango fans at 9 p.m. all week because the storylines stay hot. And my two little people can't wait for May when Raid the Cage kicks off with SABC2. See La Familia, keeping those family bonds strong. Until next time.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at Outsurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. You'll also find out about included benefits like panic assistance and help it out 24-hour roadside assistance. Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
Help it out. Took the family up to go and see the snow and I got stuck. The service was quick, even though it was in a very remote area. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Be part of the 17th Annual SA Sport Awards under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Freedom Through Sporting Excellence, with great prizes to be won every week. All you have to do is SMS A, B, C, D or E to 32020 to vote for your favorite People's Choice Nominee of the Year. SMS is charged at R1.50. Free SMSs do not apply. The nominees are A. Eben Etzebeth, B. Garda Steyn, C. Siamtanda Siya Kolisi, D. Pansy Tau, E. Kirsten Neuschafer. SMS A, B, C, D, or E to 32020. Voting line closes at 9 p.m. on the 5th of May 2024. T's and C's apply. For more information, visit dsac.gov.za. Catch the SA Sport Awards on Sunday, 5th of May on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 at 7:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of the SA Sport Awards. Hashtag isn't just a game. Hashtag SASA 17th edition.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So we all know that at the turn of the year, South Africa took the issue of Israel and the Palestinians and the allegations of genocide to the International Court of Justice. We know that. We also know that many other countries, certainly Western countries, did not support South Africa. In fact, many African countries didn't say much, and certainly many countries from the Middle East didn't say much at all either. Now we understand that Turkey, or Turkey as they now call themselves, well, they've joined South Africa in its genocide case against Israel at the ICJ. Turkey aims to strengthen South Africa's case. So what does that really mean? Let's get to speak to the SABC News International Editor, Sophie McQuenna. Sophie, good chatting to you. You're live on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf.
Right, help us understand, what does this really mean?
Well, quite an important development there because, as you pointed out, Turkey is a strategic country, whether you look at it in relation to its relationship with the Middle East or with Europe. It's quite an important country as it has got ties with both regions. And therefore, Turkey has been very vocal, particularly the leader of Turkey has been very, very vocal in terms of support for Palestine. And I think it has finally dawned to him that many countries in the Middle East are not that brave to take on Israel, because Israel is an ally of the powerful nations in the north, particularly the United States of America. You know, the Saudis, people often criticize Saudi Arabia in terms of how it handles issues when it relates to America, and very soft on the US, Qatar the same, United Arab Emirates the same. And therefore, I think he was frustrated, and he has just decided that I will align myself with South Africa, that has taken a bold move to use the UN systems and going to the World Court, the organ of the United Nations, to try and seek mediation so that you can be able to address that challenge in Gaza, where women and children in particular are dying in numbers. Even today, the numbers are going up.
But now, how much of a difference will this make? What I'm saying is South Africa's already applied. The ICJ in its initial ruling already agreed there was a plausible case for genocide. Then they put in together a whole lot of conditions that they wanted Hamas to agree on, as well as Israel. And in fact, not much has happened. So what difference does that make in carrying out some of the rulings and conditions of the ICJ that Turkey's support of South Africa will make?
Well, I think it's critical, particularly at the time where we know that the International Court of Justice has already communicated to South Africa and Israel in terms of processes in relation to the hearing of the matter. Because remember, what we saw in January, it was an urgent process in terms of trying to do something to stop the genocide, in terms of those interventions that were requested by South Africa. But the real case to determine whether Israel has committed genocide, it's still coming. And the International Criminal Court has already told South Africa, given South Africa a deadline in terms of submissions of its papers pertaining to the hearing of the matter, and also on the other hand, the date has been communicated to Israel when Israel the deadline will expire after South Africa has presented its case. Now I expect
and when is the deadline
to join?
Yeah, Sophie, when is the deadline?
The deadline it's in June for submissions of papers for hearing, and then of course there will be a deadline for Israel to respond. And therefore, what is important, what we have to note here is that now that we know that this matter is going to be heard, the merits of the case, anyone who wants to join can join, and that can make a request to the ICJ to join. And when they join, they have to present their own statement and their arguments supporting South Africa or supporting Israel. And now you can even bring evidence. And that's where Turkey becomes critical, because Turkey is near where this thing is happening, has been involved, and you have people fleeing Gaza or Palestine going to Turkey. So Turkey, where Turkey is as we speak, Turkey might be sitting with overwhelming evidence in terms of Turkey's view. And that will assist South Africa, because South Africa must still present evidence. And remember, we are on the continent in the south, very far. We might have evidence. Maybe they've been given evidence. But the more evidence you get from other stakeholders who are better positioned, the better. And we know that it's not only Turkey. There are other countries in that region that will soon come out in terms of their support.
That's if they do, of course, right? Just a quick one here. So I mean, the initial call for that urgent ceasefire we know has not taken place. As you said, that this submission would be for the actual charge against genocide. I get that. Here's a question to you, right? Would this change? You know, we have an election coming up on May 29th, right? And the submission was done by the South African government, but an ANC-led government. Now, if by chance there's a change of a party leadership of government, right? Is there any chance that our position with the ICJ with regard to Israel may change as well?
It will depend. If there's a change of government, it will depend which party is going to lead government. If you have the coalition on the right or the liberal coalition, clearly this case, they won't proceed with this matter. If you have the coalition of the left or those political parties that are pan-Africanist and are on the left, this is going to continue because they've already made their position clear. For example, a party like EFF, the PAC, and the others have made it clear that they support this move.
Okay,
but other parties such as the DA and those who are aligned to the DA, I can't guarantee you know that they have a different view in terms of how this matter must be resolved.
Okay, but quickly, here's my point in 10 seconds, right? That means whatever we've submitted, if there is a leadership change of government, that the actual position can be changed. That means we could pull the rug from our own application. It's possible.
It's possible, depending as appointed. Look, this election in South Africa, you either are going to have the current governing party getting 50 plus 1 and continue business as usual, but internally in South Africa you may see changes in Mbeki calling for that engagement, so to try and bring the country together, and there might be, but on international stage I can't see it changing. If it's the left coalition, it will stay the same. If it's a different coalition from the left coalition, we will see policy direction changing, and that will affect decisions that were taken.
Well, there you are. Feel on the pulse. Absolutely. Thanks for that contribution, Sophie Mokoena. But Turkey, in this case, you're now joining the South African position around applying for a finding of genocide against Israel. Just gone 3:30. Let's get to the news headlines with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, closing arguments in the bail application of the 5 accused in the murder of a rapper, Keenan aka Forbes, are continuing in the Durban High Court. Former ANC president and now leader of the newly formed MK party, Jacob Zuma, is expected to be hauled before an ANC disciplinary hearing on Tuesday next week. And a Syrian man has filed a complaint against Russia at the UN Human Rights Committee over the bombing of a Syrian hospital 5 years ago. And those are your headlines. A full news update coming up at 4.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good afternoon. On the roads, a crash scene on the N1 South in Joburg. Now, this is just after the Malabongwe Drive exit to Randburg. Traffic is heavily backed up, queuing all the way back through to William Mandela. So from 4 ways down through Randburg, it is heavy. And the other impact there is Malabongwe Drive coming out of Randburg out through Stratham Park. Some real heavy traffic trying to turn from Malabongwe Drive into that N1 South. You're basically turning into the crash and into the delays. Been an interesting day in Durban. It's been the first sort of off-peak part of the day where we haven't seen the heavy queues coming down the N2 between Mgena Road and Spaghetti Junction. Normally that route is jammed solidly all day from sort of 8:30 until 4 p.m. None of that today, so that's been a result. There is a breakdown though on the N2 northbound in amongst the road to exit Spaghetti Junction, so an extra queue heading through the interchange towards Mgena Road and Cape Town, right in the heart of Goodwood. A collision on the N7 Jakes Curville Drive at 4 Trekker Road, causing delays both ways along the N7, but particularly bad coming southbound with a queue back as far as France Conradi Drive. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, what's the big story today?
Well, the big story is all things rugby. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus will now officially be known as Dr. Johan Rassie Erasmus. The 51-year-old was awarded an honorary doctorate by the Northwest University for his contribution to rugby. And the inauguration took place at the Northwest University campus in Potchefstroom around 9:30 this morning. And under Erasmus, the Boks won back-to-back World Cups in the process, becoming the first team to win 4 World Cups in 1995, 2007, 2019 and 2023. Then moving on to football action, Orlando Pirates head coach Jose Rivero says that the team is much closer to the full potential that he's looking for. Bucks have now scored 36 goals in 13 matches in 2024, and this is the return that's convincing the Spanish-born coach that they're on that right path.
Well, the results are telling that we are close. Obviously, we are winning games. We are scoring goals. We are dominating the games, and we are producing good performances. We are in a good space. I think we are in the best moment of the season in terms of confidence, which is key to in the end to win games. I think we have moments in the season that we didn't get results, but we play even better football than right now. But now the ball is going to the net more frequent, and we all are looking, more handsome is the word. So that it's difficult to answer your question with precision and having an objective analysis of the situation, but it's clear that the team is permanently progressing. We are we are already in the last stage of the season in a very good form, and let's not stop right now, continue until the end with this level of confidence and the talent that we have in the team. The results are going to be more close for us than far from us.
In the meantime, Tunisia faces sanctions, including a ban on flying its national flag at major sporting events. This is after it was found to be non-compliant with the World Anti-Doping Code. The World Anti-Doping Agency confirmed yesterday that the Tunisian National Anti-Doping Organization failed to fully implement the latest version of the code released in 2021 within its legal system. Until this is addressed, Tunisia loses a number of WEDA privileges, and they cannot host major sporting events and are barred from flying its flag at international sporting events, including at the upcoming Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games in July and August. Moving on to cricket news, Cricket Australia Chief Selector George Bailey says that Australia's T20 World Cup captain Mitch Marsh has natural characteristics of a leader and does not foresee any clash of egos with Test captain Pat Cummins during the tournament. Marsh will resume batting in the coming days after leaving the IPL early, but is further away from getting back to the bowling crease.
Oh, a number of things, and I think he's just got the natural characteristics of someone who's he's very genuine, good care around others. Performance is obviously a really important one too. From your captain, your leader, you want them leading from the front. I think Mitch has done that particularly well in T20 cricket over a period of time. Every opportunity he's had in that leadership role. I think going back even as far as South Africa last year, creates a wonderful dynamic within the group. Gives great support to the players around him. Works well with the coaching staff around him as well.
Then in golf, PGA Tour moves to Texas this week with over 150 players set to compete for the trophy. Jordan Spieth is highly tipped to win the tournament at the 2024 CJ Cup. Byron Nelson and world number one Scotty Scheffler will sit this one again. Also sitting out, he also set out the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. The 27-year-old says that family comes first right now with his wife set to give birth, and Spieth is the highest ranked player at this CJ Cup. Byron Nelson, whose field includes the defending champion Jason Day. Then finally, in Women in Sports, I continue to put a spotlight on a female finalist in the People's Choice Sports of the Year category at the SA Sports Awards that's happening on Sunday. Today, we're talking all things Kirsten Nijschaefer. Now, she's a South African sailor who specializes in high altitude and high adventure sailing. She's the first woman to win the 2022 Golden Globe race. Now, this race is one of the toughest sailboat racing in the world. She goes around the globe non-stop, unassisted, on a small traditional boat without modern equipment, meaning no satellite, no GPS, and no boat over 10.9 meters, and no boats designed after 1988. She's also the first South African sailor to win a round the world event. So to vote for her, you just need to SMS the letter E to 32020. And basically on that note, I just want to implore our listeners that yes, we know the likes of Siya Kolisi, even Elizabeth and Percy Tau are doing well in their respective traditional, well-known sports. However, Gerda Steyn and Kirsten Nijschaefer, these two ladies are also as deserving because they're doing well in those sports that are traditionally not recognized as those that are recognized, like football and rugby. So that's it for my Women in Sports feature.
Okay, great. We're going to talk lots more about other business issues in sport.
Absolutely.
Later.
So next time I'm talking all things business and sports, and today I'm talking about the football jerseys that have sold the best in the world, especially from last season. So I'm asking, I have a poll that I'm running on Twitter.
Can we vote now?
Yes, you can.
All right. Just give us the tease, right?
So basically, I'm asking you, which club do you think sold the most football jerseys last season
in the whole world?
In the whole world.
Okay. How do we vote?
Is it Manchester United, Manchester City, or Liverpool? On my Twitter page, it's at Dumin Khabele, and I'll let you in on which one is the number one.
Not Real Madrid.
Nope.
Okay. Not Barcelona.
Nope.
Okay, got that. Not the Springboks, but that's rugby. Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens.
SAFM leading the conversation.
Catch the Tastemaster SA this Tuesday at 7 on SABC2. It's Elimination Week, and contestants must make big things happen as they fight to stay in the competition. Their task? To create an impressive tower of baked items in a test of skill and creativity. Who will survive to bake another day? Find out on the Tastemaster SA. Tuesdays at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1, and Sundays at 4 p.m. on SABC2.
So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. We buy cars, we buy cars.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Right, you better hear this. Mangaliso Mkachwa was jailed, tortured and banned by the apartheid government. But he went on to be a deputy minister and a mayor. In 1994, he spoke passionately about the role of ordinary citizens in shaping the future by voting. And 30 years later, That hasn't changed. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's #RememberMe initiative encourages South Africans to honour Nkatshwa's struggle by exercising the right he fought so hard for. That's the right to vote. #RememberMe.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
We've been talking about Jacob Zuma now, set to appear before an ANC DC coming up in a few days' time. Here's some comment from Anonymous in KwaMashu. What a timing for the disciplinary against the former president. Whatever the outcome, it will popularize the MK party. I thought they will try and avoid that until the elections are done and dusted. From Anonymous. In fact, I think that's what former President Thabo Mbeki also suggested. Keep those comments coming, keep the calls coming, keep the WhatsApps. We'll certainly take those comments and calls as soon as I can. To WhatsApp us, it's 0614 104 107. Let's, however, now move on to a story that is really, really sad. That's the passing of Dr. Yaqub Isaac, right? He's, amongst many other things, a medical doctor, and then former president of the Islamic Medical Association. He's been part of the Gift of the Givers. My understanding is virtually since day one with Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, and in many occasions headed up their medical teams, not just in South Africa, but abroad. On a personal level, he's been a friend. He's been a chummy. I've played squash with him regularly. He's been a former neighbour of mine. We played paddle as late as last week, Saturday and Sunday. He's been a confidant and so many things. But he passed on sadly yesterday. But I thought let's get someone who's worked with him on many levels to give a tribute, to give him the respect that I think he fully deserves. And that's Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, the founder of the Gift of the Givers. Imtiaz, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on what clearly is a very, very sad time, a time of great reflection, isn't it?
Yes, Ashraf. And yes, and when that call came in on yesterday morning at about 7:45 to say that, Yaqub got a heart attack, it just somehow in the soul, you felt that this was not good news. He's had a heart attack before.
Mm-hmm.
He was flown in with a helicopter from the Bale Park many years ago, brought to the hospital, he survived, he had some issues after that. But yesterday, when it happened, you just felt that something is not going to go right today. And, as we were monitoring the day, we kept on getting messages, it's not good, it's not good, it's not good. And eventually at 4 p.m., the cardiologist, who is also my cardiologist, called and said, you better take the flight.
Yeah. And
20 minutes later, he was gone.
He was gone. I mean, I saw you at the graveside last night, but there was a huge crowd, as you would understand, right? Even though the funeral was like 10:30, 11:15 at night. And in many ways, that funeral and the attendance reflects just his position in the broader South African community, isn't it?
Ashraf, you know what? That funeral was with so many diverse people. Yaqub was really loved. I can tell you, he was really, really loved. He was, and I can judge that by the way he was in our team. He was the most unassuming, really humble, dedicated, willing to listen to people, and especially when the teams, when we're in difficult situations, it's written on his forehead that this is the counselor. You're going to speak to this guy. Even when new team members came, and they were not certain who to talk to, because things move sometimes very fast in disaster situations. But somehow he had that look on his face that people say, I think I need to talk to this guy. and no matter where we went, people said, we need to talk to Yaqub. Because he was so soft. And when he was always smiling, always kind to the people. And in the medical teams, everybody felt very comfortable with Yaqub. Anything, let's phone Yaqub. Let's phone Yaqub. Let's phone Yaqub. Yeah. And we know that quietly he helped orphans, he helped widows, he helped old people, he helped elderly. And he was one. Yesterday we were discussing with the medical team guys that were there. We should have taken him back to medical school and say you should teach family medicine, because he was a living example of what family medicine should be. You sit with the patient, you take your time, you listen to them, you encourage them, you give them reassurance, you follow them up. We don't do that in medicine anymore. We don't have the time.
I think you're so right. I mean, he's been besides my neighbor, he's been my doctor for all these years, to the point when I first suspected that I'd had COVID, the first call my wife made was to Yaqub. And of course, he spoke to us. But often, talking about the family doctor part, because he's been so busy in the day, he would often return the call at literally 11 o'clock at night, and it has happened on more than one occasion. And I'm pretty sure it's not just me, because that was his free time that he was available in the day, which gives a sense of just his connection to community in terms of the provisions of his service as a medical doctor, isn't it?
Well, I'll give you another example. That's exactly true what you're saying. It was beyond patients. It isn't anybody who had a problem with the community. And even the medical guy who's got a problem, he needs some advice. Jacob will take the time, sit 1 hour on the phone, go and meet them in a coffee shop or their house and sit and listen to their problem. I was very surprised last year at the disaster conference that Gift of the Giver set up at the ICC in Cape Town. And he said, look, I'm going to have to go meet this lady. So I said, what for? And he said she lost her husband. He was a doctor. She has no idea how to run GP practice. She doesn't have a number. She's not a doctor. She needs this advice, that advice. He doesn't know the lady. She made some call. He took the time to go and explain, to help her get her out of the situation and see how she can sell the practice into something practical. But all his busyness, he always found time for people, for the neighbor across the road. As you said, you were his neighbor. Anywhere people had a problem, he would pilgrimage time. He was involved in sorting out the vaccines and the cards and giving advice. He never said no to anybody.
Yeah. Does it? I mean, in many ways, and we'll talk about what he's worked with you and Gift to the Givers on what platforms. But he was the perfect foil for yourself. I mean, you have a presence. You're tall. You're loud. You're on all media platforms. Jacob is exactly as you said. He's very, very unassuming and very understated in his style, but he still gets work done, isn't it?
Yeah, he's my number one go-to guy. We had a spiritual type of relationship. Jacob know what I'm going to say before I say it, and I would know what he's going to say before he says it. And if somebody he would come and he would say, I'm going to answer in this way, and this is going to be my opinion. And the team members will tell me he's always right. That whatever he told us you're going to say, that's exactly what you said. We understood. I would say, mission starting, you know what to do. And Jacob would get things activated. It's one line. And actually, when we started the disaster conference, strangely enough, we said this disaster conference is different. It's about live on site, what happens. And it starts off with a voice note from me telling him we're starting the mission. And then he plays a voice note to the other guys that he spoke to and their responses, and to show you exactly how we enter a mission. And, but the point was not the other part. The point was I would give him one line in the voice note, and he would know then exactly how to move on.
Yeah.
And he'll be tired, he'll be exhausted. And like you say, sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night. He said, sorry, been busy the whole day. I can only get back to you now.
That's quite normal. Now I'm pretty sure that my first introduction to you, in fact, was through Jacob Isak. To you.
What did you say, Homestead Park at that time?
Well, yeah, we were neighbours in Homestead Park, so that was my first introduction to you. Yeah. But here's the quick thought before we wrap up, right? What was his role then with regard to the Gift of the Givers?
He was the head of the medical team. We know each other for 32 years. And I met him before 32 years, before 92. Gift of the Givers was born in 92. And I met him casually at an Islamic Medical Association, some function in Kimberley. I spoke to him for a little while, and, you're not friends with everybody you speak at a conference. You just talk to them for the first time. And then in 92, he called me. I don't know what it was. Was it in 91? We were sending a ship to Bangladesh. And he said, look, I met you in 1990, and we just drowned in Somalia, and I'm part of this organization called Crescent of Hope, and I need to send a borehole, a big machine, somehow to Somalia. Have you got any ideas? So I said, I'll call the Navy. They're taking stuff to Bangladesh. You're taking stuff for me. No, sorry, it wasn't. It was 93 when we was taking the ball hospital to Bosnia. And I said, I'll call the Navy and see if I can put your rig on the ship. I don't think it should be a problem. I called them within 10 minutes. They said it's fine. And so we knew each other from 92, but the relationship started getting strong in 93.
Yeah.
And then when the Bosnia intervention started, and then we need to send medical supplies. Then Jacob was, I was sort of moving out of GP practice.
And he was always there, yeah. Just to wrap up, just one word that you would use to describe him. Yeah, just to... Okay, your line's crackling. Just one word to describe him. Just one word.
One word.
Yeah.
He was the most humble guy, unassuming. It's more than one word. You can't describe Jacob in one word.
Humble,
unassuming, and compassionate, kind, caring, everything that you could think of. He was humanity personified.
And that's where we leave it. Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, thank you for your time. I would say community builder, nation builder, very much a champion in his space, Dr. Jacob Isak.
Good afternoon, passengers. This is your captain speaking. I'd like to begin by welcoming everyone on board to Flight S3 2024 as we channel our sense of adventure and inbound for a trip around the breathtaking wonders of Africa. So get ready to open up and see our continent like never before. Africa's beauty is a sight to behold, from the peaks of Tanzania to the rainforests in Rwanda, from the pyramids in Egypt to the lakes in Malawi. There's magic in every destination that opens our eyes and changing our lives forever. Our trusted cabin crew, Doctors Fez and Anesu, will keep you entertained throughout the journey. On behalf of our crew members, we'd like to say thank you for flying with us and channeling a better you. Don't forget to catch the new season of Top Travel every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. on S3. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. S3, open up.
Mama Kite, I heard Rand Water talking on the radio about how dangerous it is for people to encroach on their pipeline servitude.
Yes, those high-pressure Rand Water pipelines are under the ground distributing megaliters of water. When people build on top of the pipeline, Rand Water is unable to conduct maintenance on the pipeline, which has a negative impact on water provision. Pipelines can burst without warning. People could get seriously injured or worse.
Yes, people can die from a bursting pipe. That is why people need to understand that Rand Water servitude is where a Rand Water pipeline is located. If we build our houses or businesses on a Rand Water servitude, then we are encroaching on that servitude. They say if communities want to know whether they've encroached over servitudes, they should look for the Rand Water beacons.
The beacons indicate the presence of Rand Water pipelines under the ground. They're rectangular, made of concrete, are painted either white or blue, and have the Rand Water logo on them.
Let's take a walk around our area to see if there are any Rand Water beacons so that we can also tell the neighbors.
Rand Water, celebrating 120 years of existence and still finding new ways to provide clean, portable bulk water.
Right, Smangaliso Mkwatshwa was jailed, tortured and banned by the apartheid government. But he went on to be a deputy minister and a mayor. In 1994, he spoke passionately about the role of ordinary citizens in shaping the future by voting, and 30 years later, that hasn't changed. On May the 29th, the Kagiso Trust's #RememberMe initiative encourages South Africans to honour Mkwatshwa's struggle by exercising the right he fought so hard for, the right to vote. #RememberMe.
SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're coming up to news time. Of course, further developments around the Jacob Zuma issue. But to get us there's been developments around the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. And the key word here today is the word dishonest. Let's get more on that with Pearl Magubani. Hi, Pearl.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, to the listeners.
Right, tell us what's happened today.
Well, today, on Tuesday, the court adjourned very early so that the defense can be furnished with all the documents that they require before they can cross-examine one of the witnesses, the cell phone data analyst, Gideon Hose. Today we heard that, yes, the state did supply them with all the documents that they needed, but most of them came through late last night electronically while they were sleeping, and some only received them this morning. Therefore, they were unable to use the time, that being Tuesday afternoon and the holiday yesterday, to go through the evidence. And then they say that, given the fact that the court had made time and said they should use this time to consult, the state has not been honest with them and only supplying them with key evidence late at night and labeling the state as ambushing the whole trial and also being dishonest about how far the investigations.
And I mean, implications of these type of statements in terms of how the tone of the case now?
I must say that State Prosecutor George Baloyi immediately got up and objected to that tone and use of language, saying that they're all officers of the court and they have not been dishonest. And the defense counsel, that Mshololo, who represents accused number 5, immediately withdrew that statement, saying that she will not use the word dishonest. However, they do say they feel that there's some injustice that's being done to them and they're trying to consult with their clients on the evidence that has been provided by the state. In the state's defense, they say that they've been given a CD or compact disc copy of some of this evidence, and some evidence they provide as per cross-examination when the defense themselves asked to be furnished with certain evidence, and therefore that was not readily available. And they do go all out to make sure that, come the next court case, they are furnished with everything they've required from them.
Anything else you'd like to share that emerged today?
Well, the Gideon Host, the cell phone data analyst, unfortunately will not be available this coming week for cross-examination. So his testimony has been set down for the 13th of May. However, we will be back in court on Monday so that the defense and the state can find themselves going forward as to what evidence will then be laid in the meantime while the matter of Gideon Host has been stood down.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you for your time, Pearl. I'm sure we'll chat again tomorrow. There we are, Pearl Magubani, the SABC News reporter. There's, as expected, lots of comment around Jacob Zuma appearing before the DC of the ANC, right? And we'll play some of them now. And of course, the questions are pretty obvious that some of that you are bringing up.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to your team. It's great day to hear your voice again. Good show. Always, it's Uncle JJ, the truck driver. You see? Ashraf, one question. Isn't it a waste of time of these parties, Mkondo, ANC, DA, whatever party, taking each other to the courts? Why must they just wait for the date of election? It's closer. You win, you lose, that's all. Isn't it a good idea? How, Matut?
Well, there you are, the truck driver. Thanks for the compliments. Really appreciate that you are in touch with the national pulse. That really matters. Good idea, bad idea? Well, I think many would say it's a bad idea. It's certainly going to cause lots of traction and friction amongst the two parties in the build-up to May 29. They both are in the news. There's no question about that. Here's another.
Very interesting, Ashraf. Jay-Z has been charged, but the MK is turning up. They're happy that he's been charged. Mbeki is saying something wise words for the first time ever. Why? Because he said what they want. Jay-Z was supposed to have been charged long time ago. And the ANC process and system should proceed regardless. Yeah. Should not take long to charge him.
It
should have been done long before, and they should charge him is exactly. But interesting. They say MK or ANC. When Zuma is charged, they're all charged.
There we are.
In numbers.
I wonder if ANC supporters are going to go and support Zuma at the ANC DC, right? And then the final one, good afternoon, Ashraf. I think now it's the right time for the ANC to deal with Zuma. ANC must expel him so that when the ANC wins the elections, he won't stand a chance of coming back. It's Chris from Bushbuck Ridge. There we are. We have a lot to talk about there. There's also been comment around the issue of Turkey supporting South Africa's case against genocide against Israel, and I'll get those comments as well just now. But we'll certainly develop the story around the Jacob Zuma issue with further commentary all throughout the show from experts as well as from you, because, collectively, we all have a feel for the national pulse. It's 4 o'clock. Heading up the news desk is Mudupi Makhalamele.
Thank you very much, Ashraf Garda. The top stories this hour: the AKA murder suspects continue their bid for bail, and Zuma's ANC disciplinary hearing to be held next week. A very good afternoon. Closing arguments in the bail application of the 5 accused in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes are continuing in the Durban High Court. AKA was killed along with his friend Tebello Motswane outside a Durban restaurant in February last year. Representing accused number 1, Lindokuhle Mkhwanazi, Advocate Simphiwe Mlotshwa said his client complied fully with law enforcement when they arrested him. However, Magistrate Vincent Hlatshwayo raised concerns around Mkhwanazi's address and his alleged medical condition.
I'm inclined to accept that applicant number 1 is asthmatic and he is receiving treatment for that. I don't have issues with that. I want to accept that. But what I'm questioning is the conduct. When he is in Westville prison, he is appearing before Dr. Moodley. His name appears on the list of patients that were to be seen by Dr. Moodley. Before Dr. Moodley, he is pointed out, that is Mr. Mkwanazi, and his name appears on the list. Now, my question to you is, what is that?
Advocate Joe Volmarans, representing accused number 2, Lindani Ndimande, told the court that his client's taxi business is suffering while he remains in custody. However, Magistrate Slatwayo questioned why Ndimande had received over 100,000 rand from one of his co-accused.
Allegations have been made by the state that applicant number 2 is part of the group. He received 133,000 rand from applicant number 4. Don't you want to address the court on that?
Well, Your Worship, yes, he did receive a sum of money for services rendered. That's what he says.
But that's exactly what I'm saying. Don't you want to address the court on that so that it is on record that we have touched on that as well? That's why I'm saying let's do justice to him.
Well, Your Worship, I believe we have touched on it. We've said the money we received is for services rendered.
Former ANC president and now leader of the newly formed MK party, Jacob Zuma, is expected to be hauled before an ANC disciplinary hearing on Tuesday next week. This is revealed in a document by the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee. In the notice, Zuma is informed that he's allegedly been charged with 2 counts. Kenny Mapanga has more.
Former ANC President Zuma is accused of contravening the ANC constitution when he, 1, publicly endorsed the newly formed Umkhonto weSizwe party on the 16th of December 2023, and 2, when he appeared on the candidate list for the MK party. Zuma may be represented by any member of the ANC in good standing at the hearing. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
The head of the Gift of the Givers medical team, Dr. Yakub Isak, has died. He was 62 years old. Gift of the Givers founder Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman says Isak died in Joburg after suffering a heart attack. He says Isak led the organization's medical team on several international missions. Suleiman says he will be remembered for the love he showed to the elderly, orphans, widows, and just about anyone in need.
Dr. Yakub has been a friend to me, a key member, a team member, companion, a friend, family, counselor, and everything that's divine in a human being. Totally spiritual, we understood each other. Team from Gift of the Givers is totally devastated. 32 years with Gift of the Givers, 32 years as a medical head. He knew no bounds to his kindness, his compassion, and his generosity. Men, women, children, orphans, widows, the elderly, people known and people not known. Jacob Isak was always there for them.
And a Syrian man has filed a complaint against Russia at the UN Human Rights Committee over the bombing of a Syrian hospital 5 years ago. The complainant accuses the Russian Air Force of killing 2 civilians and endangering the lives of all those working in and using the hospital. They include medical practitioners, patients, support staff, and visitors. Recapping the top story at 4 o'clock, closing arguments in the bail application of the 5 accused in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes are continuing in the Durban High Court. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
Making headlines this hour, Chiefs aim to win back trust of fans with victory over Sundowns today. Junior box share spoils in cup opener and strong SA wheelchair tennis team announced for World Team Cup. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story is a heavy backlog on Joburg's N1 South going down towards Randburg. There is a crash scene just after Malabongwe Drive. It's just by the Malabongwe sort of on-ramp, if you like. 2 lanes are closed. Backlog of traffic back through 4 ways and back towards Ravonia Road at Sunninghill. That's a very heavy queue. You will find a bit of trouble getting into that queue on William Mandela and also coming up from Stratham Park on Malabongwe as well. Very heavy backlogs in that northern part of Joburg today. Truck losing its load N3 south at Linksfield, so it's a bit slow coming down from Linbro Park into that particular scene. Crossing to Durban, the M2 going north, stationary vehicle in the road to exit Spaghetti Junction is being cleared, but it has left a bit of a pushback on the N3 from Sherwood getting into the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction. Also a crash going up towards, so it's a lost load, in fact, at Cliffdale on your way to Peter Maritzburg. So from sort of the M13 Key Ridge area, just after Shongwedi, you will hit a backlog of truck and vehicular traffic on that particular scene. And Cape Town, a crash right in the heart of Goodwood on Jake's Kerville Drive. That's the N7 and 4 Trekker Road. Traffic queuing heavily all approaches. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Come test drive the new Ford Territory, the family SUV with a spacious interior, 5 partial leather seats for your family, and a 12.3-inch touchscreen. Get yours at launch prices from only 590,000 Rand, including an optional service plan for a limited time only. Get to your nearest Ford dealer and test drive the new Ford Territory today. T&Cs apply.
The debate of universities will be witnessed on the field of play. The varsity derby between Amatax ladies and UJ ladies. Who are the most intelligent students? This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria ladies versus University of Johannesburg ladies on Sunday 5 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, there you are. Do you have a feel for the National Pulse? And if it is, you tell me what is it that you are feeling. You can... Whenever you post on social media, Facebook as well as on the X platform, and find SAFM Radio, use the hashtag The National Pulse, and you can tag me as well as SAFM Radio. Otherwise, you can call in to 086 000 2032 and voice notes. Or text on WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Of course, we're going to develop the story of the ANC summoning former President Jacob Zuma to an ANC disciplinary committee hearing in a few days' time. And of course, we're reflecting on the comments from Imtiaz Suleiman about the late Dr. Yaqub Isak, the head of medical team of Gift to the Givers. And of course, we will throw ahead to the fact that we're chatting to Ace Magashule coming up as part of our election monitor feature after 5 o'clock. So just about every reason for you to stay absolutely connected to the show. It's a great privilege to have you as part of the audience, I can tell you. Right, let's then talk about the ANC story. Now, you may have heard it already. The ANC has summoned the former President Jacob Zuma to appear before a disciplinary committee hearing that will happen on the 7th of May. That's next week, Tuesday, right? Okay, so we chatted earlier on to the MK Party spokesperson in Tlamulo, in Tlela, about just that. And he said this.
I would say those are wise words that for the first time I'd hear from President Mbeki this year, that he is correct. I mean, what is the rush for them to bring President Zuma before their DC? Why can't they wait until after elections? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Has former President Jacob Zuma asked for a postponement to just that, to say, defer till after the election? We're like less than a month to go now.
No, I mean, initially they requested that it be done via Zoom, and the legal team then said no, it would not be feasible. It was best that he that he's present. That was postponed, and then this time around he will attend, but it has been postponed, and we've never requested a postponement besides that.
So you have requested a postponement, or you haven't?
No, we haven't requested a postponement since then. Okay. Since the postponement of the Zoom.
Right.
Yes.
And the date is May 7th, right? Is that confirmed from your side?
May 7th, 10 o'clock, correct.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that in the context of the summons to appear before the DC and the fact that we have, this is for a former president who's still a member of the ANC, who's the leader of the MK?
Well, what I'd like to add is that, I mean, you would have seen with the sequence of events and all sorts of legal cases being brought forth, all sorts of, from the ANC, from the IEC, We don't understand, what this whole fuss is about, and that's why we've won all these cases, and we continue to win, and that's just a clear demonstration that it's a desperate act on their end. And if I were them, I would have listened to their leader in the form of President Mbeki, who would have, for the first time, given them wise words, which are, what is the rush, and why the desperation? So, I'll leave it at that.
If I were them, I would listen to former President Thabo Mbeki. What did former President Thabo Mbeki say a week back?
You see, the position has been taken by the leadership, and I think they're probably right about this, is that there are certain set procedures in the constitution of the ANC as to how you expel a member. That it is necessary for the ANC itself to respect that constitution, so that it does not behave in any manner, in a lawless manner, in terms of its own laws. And therefore, the decisions to take him to disciplinary committee and so on, that's what's prescribed in the Constitution. It's not cowardice. It's that I think that loyalty to its own Constitution is important in the same way that we must also be loyal to the national Constitution. So I think the position that the ANC leadership has taken on this, in terms of procedure, is correct.
All right, so what do you make of all of this? And I'm sure you have strong views on this either way. Do let us know. Let's have this conversation and get a good sense of the pulse of the nation on this issue, right? Let's get another opinion with Dr. Levi Ndo, who's the political analyst based at the Tshwane University of Technology. Dr. Ndo, good chatting to you. You are certainly connected to the pulse of the nation.
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the listeners at home. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Right, you've heard the story. You've heard the summons to appear before DC. Your thoughts?
I think this is quite a tricky situation in the sense that the ANC has got its rules that are supposed to be followed, but at the same time you have got someone who has clearly defined himself outside everything that is ANC. And the question would be, would therefore the proceedings be treated on an urgent basis or even necessary? Former President Zuma is going to be appearing on the ballot for MK Party. That clearly says that he's no longer a member of the ANC, he's outside the ANC. He might have paid his affiliation and maybe for a longer period of time to cover him as a member, but by conduct, by statements, by everything that he does, he should not be defined as a member of the ANC. And my view is that these are kind of issues that has the potential to divert the attention of the ANC and not focus onto the election, but focus on the disciplinary proceedings for former President Jacob Zuma. And we all know that ANC processes will take a very long period of time, and therefore it means that for the month of May and many other months to come, the ANC will be very busy with former President Jacob Zuma, whose conduct has actually defined him outside the ANC.
So you've got the ANC, you've got the MK Party, you've got Jacob Zuma. You made the point that DC will, in fact, go ahead on the 7th of May. Who'd be the big winner and loser from this?
The big winner, of course, remains former President Jacob Zuma, that even whilst he acts and defies the ANC, they still have a lot of time to want to engage him. And I would tell you that you even when they go and meet, he might still be portraying his own tendencies of defying the ANC, the so-called ANC of Ramaphosa. So as long as there is the ANC that is being led by President Ramaphosa, obviously Jacob Zuma and the MK Party would not give that a proper recognition. So my sense is that he has actually done all that indicates that he is not in the ANC, it's outside the ANC, and procedures are there, unfortunately, for the ANC to follow, but they are not dealing with a member of the ANC. They are dealing with someone who's outside the ANC.
Well, the MK spokesperson, in effect, is suggesting that this ANC is the Ramaphosa ANC, which is not the real ANC. And therefore, it suggests to me that going into this DC, right, and you're quite right, how do you potentially find a person guilty or even suspend someone who's not even, effectively, is not present, is not part of the ANC any longer, right? But that means that Jacob Zuma would use this opportunity with being in the national spotlight to effectively promote his vision for, let's call it his version of the ANC, which happens to be the MK party.
It is, in my view, a very good opportunity for the MK party to campaign using this issue. It's a good opportunity for the MK party to get organized and go show support for former President Jacob Zuma anywhere that is going to be appearing. So the timing really works, in my view, for former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party.
So I'm likening this to a player playing for a football team. He plays for the one team, and then mid-season he decides to move to another team. And we're debating whether he's got a proper clearance, transfer clearance at a junior level. And while we're having this debate about parents squabbling, he actually is playing for the other team. So the only reason the former team would want to take him to a DC is if they want him back, right? Which then begs the question, what would be the end goal for the ANC in this?
Well, I think the angle would be, which should have required a proper timing, is that they want to formalize his expulsion from the ANC, even though they all know that former President Jacob Zuma is out of the ANC already. The unfortunate part on the ANC is that this does not work good for them, but it works for Jacob Zuma and the MK party. Maybe they should have taken a decision to further wait for this matter and deal with it at a later stage. And one would explain a very good explanation from the ANC.
Well, of course, we're speaking to you as a political analyst, not as an ANC advisor, but let's just make the assumption that you are an ANC advisor and they asked you. I take it you would have told them, don't do it, leave it alone.
Well, his conduct, his behavior, his face is going to be on the ballot for the MK party. Clearly, this person is not in the ANC anymore. And I think the ANC should be focusing on other issues rather than Jacob Zuma, who has clearly indicated that he's out of the ANC.
No, it's a very strange thing. Is there anything else you'd like to just add on in conclusion, that maybe an issue that we're missing here?
Well, I don't think there is nothing that we're missing. What is very clear is that the ANC is trying its best to follow its own procedures and its constitution in terms of members' misconduct. But at the same time, the conduct of the an individual who, in this case, is former President Jacob Zuma, is very clear. It's in defiance of the ANC leadership, and that, in my view, continues to work for him because the ANC is giving him a lot of attention rather than focusing on its own programs.
Okay, and that's where you're going to leave it, Dr. Levi Ndoh, political analyst based at the Tshwane University of Technology, effectively suggesting what I'm suggesting, and I think many people will feel it like, why would the ANC want to pursue this matter now? So thank you for your time, much appreciated. It does mean we'll get more calls, and hopefully we'll get reaction from the ANC on this issue ASAP, but we get reaction from you and how you get a feel for the national pulse by taking your calls, by calling in, by sending out WhatsApp voice notes, by texting, and also by tweeting. I mean, all those combinations are ways we can engage with you, which we'll do in a moment.
SAFM, leading the conversation. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Be part of the 17th Annual SA Sport Awards under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Freedom Through Sporting Excellence, with great prizes to be won every week. All you have to do is SMS A, B, C, D, or E to 32020 to vote for your favorite People's Choice Nominee of the Year. SMS is charged at R1.50. Free SMSs do not apply. The nominees are A. Eben Etzebeth, B. Gerda Steyn, C. Siamtanda Siya Kolisi. D. Pensi Tau. E. Kirsten Neuschafer. SMS A, B, C, D, or E to 32020. Voting line closes at 9 p.m. on the 5th of May 2024. T's and C's apply. For more information, visit dsac.gov.za. Catch the SA Sport Awards on Sunday, 5th of May on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 1 at 7:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of the SA Sport Awards. Hashtag isn't just a game. Hashtag SASA 17th edition.
Business owners, don't waste your time searching for an employee that has it all. They do not exist. But I will tell you what does exist. The Kia K2 700 Workhorse. It's versatile, powerful, and reliable. It also arrives on time every day. Save your cash with no deposit and only pay 5,799 Rand per month. It's the business partner you've been waiting for. Up your game with the Kia K2 700 Workhorse. Visit kia.co.za for more. T's and C's apply.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
Right, we'll get calls, we'll get voice notes on a range of issues. They're always welcome. Hashtag the National Pulse. I opened the show with a feature called, That's My Point. And I referred to the passing of Dr. Jacob Isak, and I made the point about tomorrow is never promised. Well, Carol Smith in Cape Town wants to pick up on that. Hi, Carol. Carol, hi.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, you're live on the National Pulse. Go ahead.
Excellent. Yes, Ashraf, as you said, tomorrow is never promised. My child, I left him at 10 o'clock. He just played at a gig, and by 1 o'clock he was dead. And just that terrible thing, killed by someone who'd been drinking, who then drove and killed him, a sober pedestrian. And, Ashraf, the thing people say, it's God's will. These deaths, many of these deaths in South Africa, are prevented. They're preventable crashes. They're not accidents. They're not God's will. It's because people drink and drive. It's because people cross the road at the wrong time. Don't wear seatbelts in the car at speed. So, as you say, it's a terrible thing. You don't have time to say goodbye, and it's awful to say goodbye and then never see the person again.
I'm sure. I'm so sorry, really, because again, a parent. We've been talking about an adult passing away, so we reflect on what their children are thinking. I'm talking of Dr. Jacob Isak from Gift of the Givers and the IMA. But in your case, you're a parent, and suddenly your child's no more. How do you manage?
For a parent to lose a child, as you say, it's one of the most stressful things in life. They say it's the most stressful. The second most stressful thing is to actually lose your job. But, you have to survive. I had to survive because I have other children and a husband. But what I did was I put my frustration and my pain and that into starting an NGO, South Africans Against Drunk Driving, to try and save the lives of other people in South Africa, and also to give a voice to my child, to give a voice to Chaz, because he has no voice. So the only voice that anyone can hear is my voice, and my voice is loud and clear about stopping these preventable crashes and trying to tell our government to work harder, to do more testing for the Department of Justice to, get the prosecution rate up. So, but for a parent, it's like losing a part of your body, losing a limb. Yeah, it's the most terrible thing.
And I can't imagine it, but I hear you, and thank you for sharing that, because you're right. In the greater scheme of things, whatever your religious persuasion is, we may talk about God's will and understand. We all have an understanding of that, but there's also like a common sense issue that these things that happen just should not happen. They just happen because of incredible negligence and just too many people just not caring at all about the rules of the road and other issues, and people lose their lives. So Carol, thank you for your time, and it's a difficult call to accept, but much appreciated. Thank you so much. Right, let's move on now to, thank you so much. In the heart of South Africa's coal-rich province of Mpumalanga, the Council for Geoscience pioneers the fight against climate change with the implementation of carbon capture, utilization and storage. That's the CCUS project. Now, the CCUS technology captures carbon emissions at their source and securely stores them underground at carefully selected geological formations. This endeavour not only mitigates CO2 emissions, but also supports vital coal-dependent industries for South Africa's development. Near Leandra, the CGS has identified a site that will pilot this project as one of the developmental imperatives towards achieving a low-carbon economy. You got that?
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
There's a concerned citizen saying the ANC, the analyst Ndo has got it wrong. It won't work for Z. The ANC is drawing the line that MK is different from the ANC and his constituency comes from concerned citizen. Okay, let's move on to issues in the city of Johannesburg. You may be aware of an issue that took place yesterday. There was an underground cabling fire that was caused apparently by attempted theft. I don't know the full story, but the bottom line to that, there was a fire. The fire was put out, but those roads were closed yesterday. The highway, a key part of the double-decker highway. If you're from outside of Joburg, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. What's the position there now? Because I understand that there are parts of the suburbs or areas just surrounding that area of the double-decker highway that are still without power. So this report then from Calvin Glula, the SABC News reporter. Calvin?
Good afternoon to you, colleague, and to the listeners at home. Just to recap, yesterday, as you have mentioned, we rushed to the M1 double-deck highway near Braamfontein here in Johannesburg because an underground fire erupted. We spoke to the Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson, Mr. Robert Mlawuzi, who told us that upon rushing there, they suspected the cable theft. Those cables that are running along the tunnels belong to the City Power and some of to the Transnet. One of the noticeable disruptions was traffic yesterday because the highway was closed and cars were redirected to other routes. Mr. Mlawuzi later confirmed to SABC News team that the fire was later extinguished at around 6:30. Today, EMS and the City Power went back to the scene in the morning to do their assessments. After doing their part in terms of assessment, the EMS gave assurance to the City Power that the place is safe and City Power can start working. We later spoke to Isaac Mangena, who speaks for City Power. He told the SABC News team that they have established that the cable theft and vandalism of underground infrastructure has been identified as a possible cause of this fire. Even though we did not manage to go and see ourselves the work that was taking place underground, the spokesperson told the SABC News team that they are communicating with their technicians underground, and the technicians are telling them that it is still dangerous down there because the heat has not subsided as yet. We were escorted underneath the bridge where the criminal activities are suspected to be taking place. Apart from the banned infrastructure, there are people who are actually staying there, homeless people. During one of the crossings we had on television, they banned something and the smoke was all over the place. There was an even time where I could not see the lens of the camera because of the smoke that engulfed. My question was that why are those people not being moved from underneath the critical infrastructure? Because it might happen that they are partaking in these criminal activities. But as I read, colleague and the listener at home, the fire was extinguished yesterday. Roads were cleared, and the site was handed over to City Power to do their assessment. The City Power will communicate with the media once they are done with their assessment so that they can tell us what exactly happened and how much damage has been caused. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Calvin Gludla, the SABC News reporter, covering that story of the double-decker highway and power around that double-decker highway. Well, no power. Many of the areas just around it because of those underground cabling fires. We'll certainly follow that developing story. Right. Let's get the news headlines now with Madupi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garda. In your headlines, the respondents in the IEC's Electoral Code appeal on the MK party matter have filed a notice to oppose at the Constitutional Court. Closing arguments in the bail application of the 5 accused in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes are continuing in the Durban High Court, and the case against 6 men arrested in connection with the hijacking and murder of Kaizer Chiefs defender Luke Fleurs has been postponed to next week in the Roodepoort Magistrates Court. Details of these and other stories with Greg coming up at 5.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yeah, there are a handful of incidents causing some major delays today. One is the big crash on Joburg's N1 South, just past the Malabongwe Drive on-ramp. 2 lanes are closed. The traffic's all the way back through to Rivonia Road in Sunninghill and looking particularly heavy, I must say. Heavy enough to have you queuing on Winnie Mandela out of Bryanston to try and get into the N1 and queuing on Malabongwe out through Stratham Park to try and turn into the N1 there as well. Lost load on Joburg's N3 South as the left lane closed by Linksfield. That's enough to push the traffic queue back into Limbro Park. Now, if you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, a truck has lost its load at Cliffdale. Only 1 lane open. The truck in 1 lane, the load across 2 lanes, and just the right lane open heading into Pietermaritzburg territory. So really big queues from the Key Ridge area just after Shongweni on the N3s where you'll pick up that Q3 Key Ridge up to Cliffdale, and the M13 that comes out of Hillcrest into Key Ridge to join the N3. That's very heavy as well. And then if you're driving the other way, there's been a couple of trucks that have collided near Umlas Road. The road is temporarily closed towards Durban, so traffic's just busy stacking back through Linfield Park and marching back towards the Ashburton area. Also, Cape Town today, collision right in the heart of Goodwood, 4 Trekker Road and Jake Scoville. It's heavy on all approaches into that junction, and a crash on the N1 out of town at Plattercliff Road, pushing a queue back to Century City and Canal Walk. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, to me, sports, but I'm very interested in that football T-shirt, a football jersey story.
I'll let you in on that just a little bit later. For now, though, let's focus on the game that is at hand, happening this evening between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns. And Chiefs captain, Given Msimango, says that he believes a win over Sundowns will make Amakosi fans believe in them again. Now, the Brazilians are looking to lift their record-extending 7th league title in a row tonight and 17th overall championship title in the history of South African football.
Not to use the word redeem, but I could say it's a match that will make a lot of supporters happy if we win. I think in terms of redeeming or putting the club back to where it ought to be, it's for us to win championships. Honestly, to win championship, you need to be consistent in winning your games. So I think it's a step towards that, winning this game, and not just this particular game. It's similar like the derby. You play a derby, it's entertaining, the fans are happy. Irrespective of what the scoreline is, people are always happy to watch the derby. So same likewise with the Sundowns game. It's a massive game, game of history as well, rivalry between the two teams. So you're looking forward to it. You're looking forward to entertaining the fans on the day and just giving out a good performance.
Well, kickoff is at 7:30, so it'll be interesting to see if Amakosi will be able to spoil the party for Sundowns for now.
So just to confirm, if Sundowns if they draw, they win the league?
They have to win. So
Stellenbosch spoiled it last night. I know
yeah,
okay. But they're going to
Talking about Stellenbosch, I've been telling people that is a team to reckon with. I am looking forward to seeing what Stellenbosch is going to do next season.
I saw that first goal with a header, just that deft touch. But
also, that win is now. It means now for Stellenbosch, it's 25 games unbeaten in the league so far. Elsewhere, Ralf Rangnick says that he wishes to continue as the Austria head coach with Euro 2024 his immediate goal. This obviously is a great blow to Bayern Munich in their search for a replacement for outgoing boss Thomas Tuchel. The former Manchester United interim manager has been tipped to replace Tuchel, who leaves at the end of the season after just 2 years in charge, having failed to secure Bayern a 12th successive Bundesliga crown. However, Ralph says, nope, I'm not going there. Then in rugby, a late try for New Zealand denied the Junior Springboks victory in the opening match of the inaugural Under-20 Rugby Championship in Queensland today. The try was scored in the 78th minute to mark the final score 13-all, with the third touchdown of the first round match at the Sunshine Coast Stadium. Now, trailing 3-0 at halftime, the South Africans fought back and they took the lead through fly half Tyler Safua and Joel Lyotlela's finish next to the uprights after the Kiwis initially extended their advantage. Now, the Junior Boks will now refocus for a clash against the host Australia next Tuesday before finishing the tournament against Argentina on the 12th of May. In tennis, a vastly experienced team has been unveiled by Tennis South Africa for the BNP Paribas World Team Cup to be played in Turkey next week. That's happening from the 7th to the 12th of May. Now, the national squad will consist of 4 teams of 2 players each competing in the men's and women's division, as well as the quad and junior boys categories. In the men's competition, the nation will be represented by Alwanda Skosana, who won gold in the singles and doubles finals at the African Para Games in Ghana last year, and Evans Maripa, a former winner of the SA Open. The powerful women's team will feature global star Kgotatso Montjane, who won the French Open and US Open doubles titles last year and is currently ranked 7th in the world, as well as Mariska Venter, who is ranked 3rd in Africa. Another strong pairing will compete in the quad category with the SA team, including world number 4 Donald Rampadi and former US Open champion Lucas Sitole. Then let's end things off with the business of sport. I did ask on my social page, on X to be specific, which football club jersey do you think was the number 1 bestseller in the world for the 2022-23 season? Ashraf, let's start with you.
So look, you've already sort of suggested it's either Liverpool, Manchester City, or Manchester United, or Arsenal. Is that right?
Yeah, some of them. No, so, Arsenal is not there.
No. So I would have found it surprising that there's no Real Madrid and Bayern and Barcelona. I'm quite surprised at that, right?
So you were going to basically say Real Madrid?
Well, not necessarily. So if I had to take a choice between, so it's not Manchester City, although they're a fast rising, because they don't have legacy, so it's not Man City, right? So it can only be one of the two, Man United or Liverpool.
This is according to you.
According to me, right? Yeah. If I had to go for it, I'd go for Manchester United.
Manchester United? Yeah. Because it's your club?
No, because they just have global, they have global appeal, and Liverpool very, very close to that, and Man City are nowhere near that at this point in time.
Well, looking at X, 37% think Manchester City, 34% think Liverpool, and 29% think it's Manchester United. Let me reveal the top 5 in the world. At number 5 is Bayern Munich, selling 1.3 million jerseys. At number 4 is Barcelona. They had 1.6 million sales. Real Madrid coming in at number 3. 1.7 million jerseys. At number 2, you were close, but not close enough. Manchester United, 1.750 million sales. And surprisingly, at number 1, Liverpool at 1.8 million jerseys.
Need to take that to the DC and investigate that. Anyway.
But you know what? The interesting part is that Liverpool unveiled their 2024-25 jersey today, which is basically a remix of the 1984 classic that won the treble. And so they're hoping this probably is going to be great motivation next season. And they go for between 1,399 for replica and 2,099 rand for authentic shirt.
Right, here's some homework for you.
Yeah.
Which is the best-selling football jersey in South Africa?
Easy.
No, you got to give us some facts and figures. And
I'll do that tomorrow.
You better ask someone, because we need to know that tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, with that said, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour for SAFM Sport. I'm Dumin Khabele.
This is SAFM Sports with Dumin Khabele. SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, from the business of sport to the business of business with Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good chatting to you. Let's start first up with the interim trading results for Life Healthcare, right?
Yeah, afternoon to you and to your listeners. Yes, the business of private hospitals, and amongst the big 3, Life Healthcare is the second largest private healthcare company in the country, and the group revenue is expected to increase by 8%, and that is driven by robust activity growth in the Southern Africa and a strong growth in some of the doses that they sold, and the paid patient days up 2.3%, and because of increased volumes, doesn't sound right, and also additional ICU beds. And remember, the guys, they sold Alliance Medical Group at, I think, end of January, and they got 10.2 billion. That's after paying the debt offshore and transaction cost, and they rewarded shareholders around April with 8.8 billion as a special dividend. And you look into their overall weighted average occupancy level, improved by 8.7% to 69.8%. And the guys, they expect the profits as headline earnings per share from continuing operations to increase by 31%, but the South African margins took a strain, hence the share price was down almost 7%.
Right, and then, as always, local and global markets?
You know, we've seen April that the JSE didn't do that bad if you compare it with the overseas market. I mean, the US Dow was down 5%, S&P down 4.2%, but the local bourse was up 2.2%, and we saw Treasury yields edging lower, and that's after US Fed Chair downplayed the prospect of further interest rate hikes and offered somehow mixed signals on the path of rates. Fact that the market reacted to the idea that rate hikes are likely off the table shows how much sentiment has shifted, and that is from the start of the year when we were expecting multiple rate cuts and also expected a steady downtrend when it comes to inflation. So forecast of higher interest rates were few and far between, and with that out of the way, market participants are now focusing on other catalysts such as tomorrow's US job numbers. And yes, stocks are seeing a relief rally, but does this rally have enough sufficient legs to run on? And I guess that's what market participants need to digest. Locally, we saw our April ABSA PMI rebounding to a near 2-year high, sitting at 54 from 49.2% in March. And oil prices are attempting to recover from near 2 months' lows and have been held by talks of an extension when it comes to OPEC plus supply cuts. Ashraf, currently OPEC is cutting about 5.86 million barrels per day. That amounts to almost 5.7% of global demand. Brent crude is up 0.1% at $83 a barrel. And the fact that interest rates will remain higher for longer is denting the appeal of the yellow metal as the opportunity cost of holding gold increases, but central bank sustained purchases are helping prices to stay elevated. Gold is down 1.2% at 2,291. Platinum also down 1.2% at 948, and the CAC is down 0.8%, Tex down 0.1, FTSE up 0.6, Dow up 0.4, S&P is up 0.3%. The JSE is flat with resources down 1.8%, but our industrials are up 1% and financials are up 0.5%. The rand weakened just over 1% compared to the US dollar, trading at 18.68 and 23.31 to the pound and 19.95 to the euro.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it. We will certainly chat to you tomorrow. Mark Webb, thanks for your time, as always.
Pleasure.
Right, there we are. Mark Webb with that update. We'll have another update, by the way, in terms of the money issues coming up in about an hour's time. By the way, Ace Makhashule is my featured guest in what we call the Election Monitor. So for about 45 minutes or so, in fact, we'll talk to him, which means your chance to put some questions to him as well, coming up after 5 o'clock. We'll get the ANC response on the Jacob Zuma DC issue right after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, you certainly now know that the 7th of May is an important date because that's the time that the ANC, former ANC president, will appear before an ANC DC Disciplinary Committee hearing. We already have confirmation from the MK party that Jacob Zuma will actually attend that hearing and they will come out in support. Let's get the ANC side of this issue with Matlangi Bangu Motsiri, the ANC national spokesperson. Appreciate your time and thank you for joining us. You're live on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners.
Much appreciated. Right, so, we've certainly seen the press release, so that's happening 7th of May, that DC. But help us understand the why behind it. Why the DC and why now, effectively like 3 weeks before an election when it happens?
Well, I suppose the way disciplinary committees of any organization operate, certainly I can speak about that of the African National Congress. It is not driven by whether there's an election or not. It is driven by a set of constitutional principles that have got to be adhered to. And, of course, it is also based on the fact that a suspension was handed down, and in between that suspension and now, much work needed to be done to prepare charges and to compile charges as it happens in any environment of this nature. And so there's nothing remiss about it.
Okay, I get that, but help us understand the motivation. I mean, I think even former President Jacob brother Thabo Mbeki suggested as late as a few days ago, in fact, and I know he's not the head of the DC, that it may not be a wise thing to summons him to a DC in the build-up to an election.
Well, I suppose we all have perspectives as individual members of the ANC, perspectives about how a matter of this nature ought to be handled and the care with which it needs to be handled. But I do think that it's important to respect the collective wisdom of the National Disciplinary Committee of the ANC, which is a constitutional organ that is led by Dr. Rafum Dijima. And the way in which the National Disciplinary Committee operates is not subject to our individual views. They have to be sticklers for procedure and protocol in the organization. And I'm not even at liberty to say what went behind, what was in their minds when they decided to set down to issue the notice of set down by the disciplinary committee for the 7th of May. I'm not in a position really to, unpack that. I'm sure Dr. Rafum Dijima can do so with a competent team of senior people, legal minds of the ANC, and a lot of veterans and stalwarts of the ANC that serve on that committee. But we, as the mother body, can confirm that the notice of set down has been issued. It is on the 7th of May, when Mr. Jacob Zuma remains suspended, not a member of the ANC, but the ANC has got to complete its processes so that he also is allowed to exercise his rights in law like any other member that may find that they are either, vindicated by whatever outcome, or they are aggrieved by whatever outcome of the work of the National Disciplinary Committee. They still have that right. And we've been asked many questions as to why a person that has expelled themselves through their own behavior, conduct, and actions ought still to be suspended and not expelled. And we've been at pains to explain the fact that the ANC is a systems-driven organization, has got to work on the basis of a particular method, and that method is found in the relevant prescripts that are in our Constitution.
Okay, I heard what you said, and what you said you can't say, I get that. Are you in a position, that's the ANC, to put forward a potential mediation plan before the DC? Because the MK party said they certainly want to approach the ANC, but if the ANC approaches, President Zuma, former President Zuma, that may well be considered.
We don't know anything about a mediation plan. If it's not provided for in our Constitution and is not provided for in other relevant policies of the ANC, or is not part of the what we call the political management strategy of the ANC, that is not something that is under consideration. I'm not aware of anything of the kind. All that we are looking at the moment is making sure that the work of the National Disciplinary Committee is given the necessary respect and is communicated accordingly, which is what I'm doing in my capacity as the national spokesperson of the ANC.
Okay. Just to confirm, what would be the charge for Jacob Zuma to appear before the DC?
Well, the charges obviously are going to be preferred to him on Tuesday. I can't come now and talk about the charges because that's the purview of the National Disciplinary Committee. It is a somewhat semi-autonomous constitutional organ of the ANC, pretty much like the Integrity Commission. They do their business and then they come and bring their reports to the National Executive Committee of the ANC through the Secretary General, who is empowered to receive those reports and process them accordingly. And so that is the process that we're following. We're being very clinical about it because as much as Mr. Jacob Zuma has done the damage that he has done, to the name and impugning the integrity of the organization, it's important that the ANC satisfies itself that it has dealt with this matter in a manner that resonates with its renewal program, and including allowing people that have got things to say before the DC to say them without that being prejudged.
Okay. And just lastly, in 30 seconds, so yes, I mean, the DC will then determine whether he's guilty or not, and I understand you can't say much about that. But assuming he's found guilty of whatever the charges are, what then would be the worst-case scenario in terms of the punishment meted out to him?
Well, I suppose the DC will then, outline the judge. They would make a judgment, and we will process that judgment. I don't think the National Executive Committee or the national officials can go against the decision of the NDC, the recommendation rather of the NDC. Should that happen, that would obviously be something that gets politically managed. But I don't foresee that there is something of that kind. We are dealing with a very peculiar case here. We're dealing with a case of a former president that has gone an AWOL on the organization in a way that tarnishes the integrity and the history and the legacy of the African National Congress. But that is us speaking politically. The NDC must deal with matters legally as well.
Fair enough, and that's why from a public point of view, it's, as you can understand, a fascinating test case study that certainly gets us with fingers on the pulse, and I'm sure you can understand that. Mahlengi Bengu Motsiri, the ANC national spokesperson, much appreciate your time. Thank you.
The Spanish Princess tells the riveting story of Catherine of Aragon, a woman who has an eye on the English throne, and nothing and no one is going to stand in her way. It's a vivid and captivating reclaiming of Catherine's story, which has historically been overshadowed by her infamous marriage to King Henry VIII. Tune in to drama, plots, romance, the twists and turns. Stay for the suspense. Channel your inner royalty with The Spanish Princess. Starts Saturday the 6th of April at 9:30 p.m. only on S3.
The Chili Boys want to fight with all they have to get to the final. However, the Buccaneers are saying, "Angeke kulunge." The final spot is reserved for ezimnyama ngenkani. This is the 10th battle of the Nedbank Cup semi-final. Chippa United FC versus Orlando Pirates FC. This Saturday 4 May at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This Election Watch feature is brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the hashtag Remember Me initiative.
And certainly that's Remember Me initiative by Kagiso Trust, focusing very much on the need for you to remember those that voted, and therefore the importance for you and I and everybody else to vote in this upcoming election. With that in mind, therefore, all the trends coming out of elections, I think, are particularly important. And that's what we're going to talk about now, because Professor Lesiba Tefu has a very interesting message that talks about a revolution has a tendency to eat its own children. What exactly does that mean? Prof. Lesiba Tefu is attached to the University of South Africa, but of course a political analyst too. So, Prof. Tefu, you better explain.
Yeah, thanks, Ashraf. Once a week, I write to former students and colleagues and friends a paragraph on an idea that knows my mind. And then today I wrote the one that says, a revolution has a tendency to eat its own children. This expression comes from a French journalist of the 18th century who analyzed and came to the conclusion that once the leaders of the revolution reach the palace or the state house, they become suddenly aware that they don't share a common vision, ideas and ideals that they shared then. And from there, things begin to fall apart. Bringing it back home, we have seen it, that liberation leaders, start with Mugabe, Tekerem, Jonathan Savimbi, Dos Santos, you go to Machel and you go to Gagama, and then you say, maybe indeed there is evidence to that effect. Closer home, the African National Congress. Right. It was one united lot. but you have just been talking to the Speaker of the ANC. How many ANCs were born since 1994? And what was the source? Kleptocracy, sins of incumbency, led ultimately the fracturing and the disintegration of this organization. It's based on that. I'm reflecting what I'm seeing and I'm observing, and I'm also reminded, and I keep saying it, if my people were readers and read, they would go back to Animal Farm by George Orwell, and perhaps they would learn a lot and do differently.
So there's a reason that you put that to your students, and with an election coming up, what would for you then would be the big takeout you want these students or academics to learn from?
Yes, what I want people to understand, it is about the other and not the self. Why is it that it's only in Africa that people are prepared to kill in order to serve in a public office? In other parts of the world, it's unheard of. Because public service is about the other. Public service is about being public-spirited. And it's only when you begin to look at it as a vehicle to self-enrichment that you would be prepared to eliminate the other, whoever is seen or perceived to be standing in your way to access the national granary.
So, as we build up and people looking at choices in terms of parties to vote for, how then should they, to the voter, analyze the voting choices that they have and the options they have and how they should exercise it in the context of what you've just said?
It's up to them. I've never and I will never ever tell them who to vote for. I am an enabler of informed decisions. And at the end of the day, the people get the government they deserve, and the government gets also the people it deserves. But please, don't fall to the staff when things don't go your way. Look at yourself and say, the fault is not with the staff, dear Brutus, that we are underlings. The fault is with us.
So, for those who are skeptical about the election offerings available to them, who then say, I don't care if there's 50 parties, I can't vote for any one of them, what would you tell them?
Look, people tend to say there are no alternatives. You are the alternative. You are looking for an alternative. You are the alternative. If you want change, be the change that you want to see. It's Einstein who said, you cannot, for Peter's life, to repeat the same at least experiment and then expect different results. I'm one of those who say the ANC has served us very well. It did its best, especially in the first 15 years. But from there henceforth, it has been a downward spiral. If you want change, maybe that's time you begin to reflect along those lines. The Zimbabweans were defensive of the old man. Even at 90 years, they wanted him to be given another 5 years. Is that what we want? That's fine. Let's get it. But don't blame the staff when things don't go our way.
Okay, we've got a minute to go. What do you make of this very current development of the ANC summoning their former president to a DC?
No, I think I don't know much when it comes to Zulu, but I can tell you, Ashraf, that man is a tactician, is a trust strategist, is a wily politician. But he's also a very lucky man, because they keep throwing at least ammunitions to him, and he catches them and he uses them effectively. There is no way he can embrace this opportunity, and he's going to milk it to his greatest advantage. Why do it now? When all I can tell you, he will go there with my little experience, and he will ask for a postponement and go and address the people outside. What more does he want when it comes to publicity that you don't pay for? Indeed, he's a lucky man.
Jacob Zuma is a lucky man. We live in a very, very strange world, a very, very strange country with very, very strange policies and decisions, all of that happening in the build-up to May 29th and that election. Well, thank you for enlightening us on all things you've just said, including that line that you've just wrote about, which is a revolution has a tendency to eat its own children. Thanks for your time, Prof. Lesiba Tefu. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
There we are. Can you feel the national pulse? You certainly can when you hear things like that, and the point made that Jacob Zuma has got now free marketing, free publicity coming up, just like 3 weeks by that time before election. Isn't that what marketers want and they dream of all of the time, and they don't often get it? But he says he's a lucky man. Now, what do you think? Make of that what you will. Ace Makashule, how lucky is he? Is he the ace in the pack? We'll talk to him, by the way, as part of our election monitor feature coming up very shortly. So listen out. Do not go away. It's 5 o'clock. Manning the news desk is Greg Hose.
This Election Watch feature was brought to you by Kagiso Trust. Follow the hashtag #RememberMe initiative.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to you. In this news update, MK Party to oppose electoral court appeal and closing arguments in the AKA murder case. We begin with election news. SABC News understands that the respondents in the IEC's electoral court appeal on the MK Party matter have filed a notice to oppose to the Constitutional Court. This after the IEC lodged an urgent appeal at the ConCourt against the electoral court order allowing former President Jacob Zuma to appear on the MK Party candidate list. The electoral body seeks to gain clarity on the correct interpretation of a section of the Constitution which formed the basis for it upholding the objection against Zuma. Soleka Kodashe reports.
While the respondents have filed a notice to oppose the urgent application by the IEC, they are yet to file answering affidavits in the matter. The Apex Court had issued directives that the respondents file their affidavits by the 30th of April after they requested an extension. Meanwhile, SABC News also understands that the IEC was expected to furnish the Apex Court with the record that informed its March decision to uphold the objection that saw former President Jacob Zuma being disqualified from appearing on the MK Party list in terms of Section 47(1)(e). The IEC has to do this to comply with Rule 20, subsections 1 and 2 of the court.
Closing arguments in the bail application of 5 suspects accused of the murder of Kiernan, aka Forbes, are continuing in the Durban Magistrates Court. He was killed along with his business associate outside a Durban restaurant in February last year. The legal counsel for accused number 1, Advocate Simpium Lotwa, says his client complied fully with law enforcement authorities when they arrested him. However, Magistrate Vincent Lotwayo raised concern around the accused's address and alleged medical condition.
I'm inclined to accept that applicant number 1 is asthmatic and he is receiving treatment for that. I don't have issues with that. I want to accept that. But what I'm questioning is the conduct. When he is in Westville prison, he is appearing before Dr. Moodley. His name appears on the list of patients that were to be seen by Dr. Moodley. Before Dr. Moodley, he is pointed out, that is Mr. Mkwanazi, and his name appears on the list. Now my question to you is, what is that?
The case against 6 men arrested in connection with the hijacking and murder of Kaizer Chiefs player Luke Vleers has been postponed to next week by the Roodepoort Magistrates Court west of Johannesburg. This after the state asked for some time to investigate further. They're facing charges including murder and robbery with aggravating circumstances. The 24-year-old was shot and robbed of his vehicle while at a petrol station last month. Puseletso Mokwena reports.
The 6 accused were expected to apply for bail after securing legal representation last month. However, the case was postponed to Tuesday next week for further investigations. Ndumiso Mswani, Fernando Sive, Nhlakanipho Dlamini, Frankie Qaba, Maredi Mphahlele and Tembinkosi Hlomikau, who are between the ages of 21 and 36, were arrested at Slovoville in Soweto last month. They are believed to be part of a syndicate responsible for car hijacking in the province of Gauteng. They have remained in custody. Puseletso Mokwena, SABC News, Roodepoort.
An employee from the Department of Home Affairs has appeared in the Durban Specialised Commercial Crimes Court on charges of fraud and corruption. Malusi Mlondo allegedly processed fraudulent passports for foreign nationals. Hawk spokesperson Simpium Mhlongo.
The accused Malusi Mlondo
briefly appeared in the Durban Specialized Commercial Crime Court facing the charges of fraud and corruption. This follows his arrest by the Hawks members from National Head Office Serious Corruption on Tuesday. It is alleged that Mlondo processed fraudulent passports for the foreign nationals at the Durban office while he was employed at the Department of Home Affairs in Pietermaritzburg. The case was opened last year. He was arrested on Tuesday. The case was postponed to 6 May 2024 for bail application.
The head of the U.S. Military Command in Africa says discussions are continuing with authorities in Niger and Chad, despite the fact that U.S. troops have been withdrawing. The BBC's Chris Walker has more.
Dozens of American Special Forces who were stationed at an airbase in Chad have pulled out of the country. This happened after the military government there raised concerns over their presence. In an interview with the BBC, the head of the U.S. Africa Command said this was a temporary withdrawal. General Michael Langley also said discussions were continuing with the military in Niger.
Top story. SABC News understands that the respondents in the IEC's electoral court appeal on the MK party matter have filed a notice to oppose at the Concourt. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khos.
Coming up in your sports, Tiger Woods eyes playing 3 majors in the next 3 months. Box boss receives honorary doctorate from NWU, and UEDA sanctions Tunisia for non-compliance with anti-doping code. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, no change on Joburg's N1 South, apart from the fact it's getting a whole pile heavier on the run to Randburg. It's a crash blocking 2 lanes after Malabongwe Drive. Traffic is now all the way back to the Buccleuch interchange. That's where the traffic queues, you can pick, that's where you pick up the queue, if you like, across all lanes from Buccleuch, and then all the way down through Rivonia, through William Mandela, and through Malabongwe towards that scene. Motorists are queuing as well to get into that N1 South from Rivonia, from William Mandela, and on Malabongwe Drive. Some real pressure getting into that big backlog on the M1 South today. Now, if you're leaving Durban, heading up to Pietermaritzburg, it's a long queue as well. A truck losing its load, part of its load, on the highway around Cliffdale. The backlog is now down at Shongweni, and that is a heavy backlog for kilometres lining up through Key Ridge and on your way up to Cliffdale. Earlier crash on the N3 going to Durban at Umlas Road. That scene is being cleared away. Cape Town, crash on the M1 out of town at Plattercliff Road. It's on the side of the road, but peak volumes and onlooking causing some delays, and still very busy in the heart of Goodwood. An earlier crash on Voortrekker at the N7 Jakes Curvel's got everything backed up on all approaches, and no lights going into Mitchell's Plain on the M7 Jakes Curvel at the R300. The M7 South is backlogging all the way through to Govan and Becky Road and looking heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
The University Registrar and Secretary to Convocation, Dr. Joel Baloy, cordially invites all members of the University of Venda Convocation to attend the AGM on Saturday, 11 May 2024 in Polokwane, Merupa Hotel at 10:30. The AGM will consider the Vice-Chancellor State of Campus Report, the President of Convocation Report, and amendments to the Constitution of the Convocation. To RSVP and confirm attendance, please visit www.univen.ac.za/announcements or contact Mr. Mashuda Ramarebo on 060-906-1902.
All right, stand by. So Monday nights on S3 are about to get lit, right? The BBC Primetime will give you access to a hand-picked selection of BBC Studio award-winning dramas, documentaries and factual entertainment with titles such as Luther Critical, Cheaters, Top Gear, Live at the Apollo, Louis Theroux, Forbidden America, and more. You simply don't want to miss out. Tune into S3 from the 1st of May, which is like yesterday, and from 9 p.m. until 11 p.m. So right through, right, to channel the very best of British entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
In 2006, the Democratic Alliance won Cape Town by just 1 seat.
With just 42 votes, he recently won Umgeni,
bringing remarkable progress to rural KwaZulu-Natal.
Because people voted for change.
DA-run Midvaal is now the best-run municipality in Gauteng.
And a new story was written for the Western Cape when people voted DA.
But if you want a new government that works, then you have to vote for it.
In this election, every single vote will count. Your vote can rescue South Africa. Vote DA.
This political election broadcast was brought to you in terms of the CASA regulation governing the election period. The views expressed in this political election broadcast are those of the political party and not of the SABC.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we've had so many people trying to call and comment about the appearance or the summoning to the disciplinary committee hearing of the ANC to former President Jacob Zuma. We'll see if we can try and squeeze in some of those comments as soon as we can. It's not always easy balancing it out, keeping in mind that, to have a feel for the pulse certainly now would mean spending time listening, chatting, engaging with Ace Magashule, who is the president of the African Congress for Transformation. Now, that's part of a feature we've been running for the last, I think, about 2 months, where just about every Thursday we have this feature called the Election Monitor. They've had different names before, but really it focuses on one party leader, and we touch on a whole range of issues in terms of their manifesto, but right now in terms of their pitch to win an election, if anything, right? So we'll probably even increase that frequency as we do that in the build-up to the election itself. Now, before I, however, get to Ace Magashule, what I'm going to do, you probably were aware, we've had different takes on the issue around Jacob Zuma, right? And earlier on, we chatted to Lesiba Tefu on a range of issues around the elections and other things. But then he spoke particularly about what his thoughts are around the Jacob Zuma now being summoned to appear before the ANC Disciplinary Committee hearing. And this is what he had to say.
No, I think I don't know much when it comes to Zulu, but I can tell you, Ashraf, that man is a tactician, is a strategist, is a wily politician. But he's also a very lucky man, because they keep throwing at least ammunitions to him, and he catches them and he uses them effectively. There is no way he can embrace this opportunity, and he's going to milk it to his greatest advantage.
He's going to milk it to his greatest advantage. We will see what happens on the 7th of May and beyond. And then finally, when it really matters, on the 29th of May. Anyway, let's stop talking about Jacob Zuma now. Let's talk about Ace Magashule, from the ACT, of course. That's the African Congress for Transformation. So great to have you in studio. Looking forward to this conversation.
Looking forward, and let me greet your listeners, Ashraf.
Well, they're listening, so you can go ahead.
Greetings this afternoon, and wish you all the best for the coming elections, and all the best to those who have lost hope. I think we make sure that you have some hope for the future of South Africa.
It's interesting you bring that up as the first point. I mean, would it be fair to say that at the time when the ANC sort of removed you or tried to remove you, that you had lost hope, but now that you head up another party, you have moved from hopeless to hope yourself?
Well, I've never been hopeless because of my conviction to the struggle against poverty, against illiteracy, against all social ills. That struggle still continues. It continues because that's what we have fought for. Freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, the basic freedoms. And that's why maybe some people sometimes get worried. Why do you decide to join this party or that party? Mm-hmm. That's what we have struggled for.
Well, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about a whole range of things, but I think perhaps the most important thing now, on the 2nd of May, 27 days to the 29th of May, is we've spoken to different parties, including Musi Maimane last week and Mantu Olamisa the week before and many others, even before that, is for you to make your pitch. So there's an audience, and we're allowing you to make your pitch for the audience to vote for your party. So you tell us why they should vote for the ACT.
Well, it's no more about struggle credentials. Because if I have to talk about my struggle credentials, I can talk the whole day. But our people are no longer interested in what we have done during the dark days of apartheid. Our people want basic things. Our people want jobs. Our people want better living conditions, a better life for all, not only for a few, not for leaders, not for the well-connected. Our people, black and white, throughout South Africa, mostly black African, black Indian, coloureds, those who have been marginalized in the past, they really want bread, they want food, they want their kids to go to university, they want jobs so that they can build houses for themselves. They don't just want jobs for between 18 and 35. What about a 45-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old? And this party is going to give those hopeless some hope.
Well, I think, all the things that you've listed that they want, I would have thought that all those age groups would have wanted the same things in 1994, at that very first election, right? And they still want it now because it hasn't broken the ceiling of reaching the masses, right? How do you feel about that on a personal level? Well, the fact that you could say by and large, when I say we, I'm talking as a country, not even different parties, that we've let the people down.
I think we have let our people down. And I was lucky to serve. It was a privilege to serve under Nelson Mandela. Before that, Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, President Mbeki, President Zuma, and I finally became Secretary General in 2017 December. And flashing back, I can tell you, during Nelson Mandela, I think it was about reconciliation, building the nation and all that. President Mbeki came with connecting us with Africa in the main, and then President Zuma came in. That's when long-term planning started, National Development Plan, Vision 2030. And from there, prioritizing in terms of the manifesto. And that's why things started happening. But I think when we took over from 2017, things have regressed more, because what have we done? As the then movement, when I was part of it, we reversed everything. We privatized in a way. We sold state-owned enterprises. I was one of the persons with the late Comrade Jesse Juwate. May her soul rest in peace, together with the alliance partners, SACP COSATU. We met NUMSA, we met the Crew Association, and we thought we have closed that chapter. We are not going to retrench any South African Airways employee. We thought we are not going to entrench any South African SABC employee. We had hoped that post offices won't be closed. As we see today, that almost more than 5,000 people will be retrenched. There were no retrenchments during the days of Mandela and Mbeki, Zuma. Those things were not there. So we are regressing, and I don't regret being expelled from the African National Congress, because I stood fast to what I believed in, what we have fought against apartheid.
So how do you move from being expelled from a party that you obviously loved, right? It's a given over the years, right? To a position now that, in fact, this time round, if I'm a potential voter, and let's just say hypothetically, and I'm saying hypothetically, that I'm saying maybe I should vote for the ANC, you're going to try and convince me to vote for the ACT, because that's your job. You would want my vote, right?
Yes.
So how do you feel about that shift of mindset?
That shift is going to happen. When people live in abject poverty, when the same people you call Tinswalo, who were born after 1994, who still are unemployed, 30 years into democracy. Those who were born, and their names were Freedom and Tokoloho and Nkululeko, but they are still unemployed. They can't still access NSFAS. They can't still build their own houses. They have no jobs. They can't do anything. They are homeless. They have degrees, they have masters, they have doctorates, they can't be employed. And I think this is where we want to come in. We want to give them some hope to say, please don't just think about working for somebody. We want to turn job seekers into job creators.
So if, for example, and this is not an ANC conversation, but they are the ruling party. So if, for example, at this point in time we've got this building, we've got the edifice, and there's a lot of cracks in the building, then your role would be to plaster over those cracks. How are you going to do that?
Well, if the building is about to fall apart, it's cracking, the best way is to demolish that building and make a call to our people, and together we come together, you join ACT, we actually reconstruct and we start from whatever point, because I have experience in leadership. I have experience in parliament, in legislatures. I was in Cape Town for 7 years. I was MEC for 5 departments before I became Premier. I was a leader from chairperson of the ANC from 91, 92, and I was all over. So I understand governance. I understand the plight of our people. I have done door-to-door since then until today. So it's going to be easy. I understand the failures of the governing party in terms of key resolutions, which were very important, which will actually carry forward as a radical.
So you've got the inside track on it. So okay, in terms of the I understand, I'm going to give you a minute to pause, and you'll tell me why, whatever it is you understand, how you're going to actually make the changes. Because central to our conversation is why people should vote for ACT or the ACT, right? And we'll do that right after this.
It's time to commemorate Izinja Game, the ones with greatness beyond limits and boundaries. The incredible class on the field, court, ring, bench, and boardroom. This is the 17th Annual SA Sport Awards, celebrating 30 years of freedom through sporting excellence. Experience the SA Sport Awards on Sunday, 5 May on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC1 at 7:30 p.m. Proudly brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of the SA Sport Awards. Hashtag Izinja Game. Hashtag SASA 17th edition. For the love of the game.
So, a lady from Air Officini just turned 55, and although I'm still a spring chicken, there's a part of me that envies her, especially since she now qualifies for a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account with capital guaranteed. Talk about FOMI, huh, voice man?
If you mean FOMO, then definitely, boss man. And she can earn up to 12.85% interest. Anyone over 55 can open theirs via the Nedbank Money app in less than 2 minutes. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Any person aggrieved by any political advertisement or political election broadcast that is broadcast by SAFM may lodge a complaint within 5 days from broadcast with the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. To lodge your complaint, please contact ICASA's Compliance Department via telephone number on 012-568-3233. That's 012-568-3233. Or email broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. That's broadcastingcompliance@icasa.org.za. Alternatively, complaintsccc@icasa.org.za. That's complaintsccc@icasa.org.za.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
And certainly the plan is to have conversations that move you. And the National Pulse, well, you have a feel of the National Pulse. What is it right now? And for many people, well, it certainly gets their blood boiling every single day of the week because of so many other issues that we have. Well, my guest, as part of the election monitor feature that we have every Thursday, is Ace Magashule, who was the president of ACT, or the African Congress for Transformation. Once of the ANC, of course, Secretary General, so key position within the ANC, and then was expelled, right? But now very much on his own. So I asked you the question about, and this is now about your party. So what's your plan? Like, maybe we don't have time for 20 points because there never is, right? And I'll open the lines for callers just now. But let's say 5 key issues that separates your party from others that will convince people to vote for your party.
Well, it might not be separating my party from others. Because others, we might be agreeing on certain points. But one, which is very, very key and fundamental, if you look at the back of our T-shirts and posters, you'll see that we're going to act against education exclusion. Why education? Because education as priority number one is very key, because if you have education, you can actually take your mother, your father out of poverty. If you are well educated, we can beneficiate our products locally as South Africa, be it in mining, be it in agriculture. Number two, we are against what the governing party has been trying to quell. They say no privatization. But as I was there, we are talking about corporatization, we're talking about commercialization, we're talking about privatization, they talk about PPPs. No, we are against privatization of state-owned enterprises, which were built by the Afrikaners to ensure that those who were not skilled, like Eskom, Sasol, ISCO, why do you have to sell out those entities? Why do you have to sell or privatize?
Okay, so you're against that, right?
That's what we are against, and we said we will act against privatization.
Right.
We are against retrenchments. And I was looking at May Day yesterday, National Union of Mine Workers complaining that, but everybody has abandoned them. So-called alliance partners have abandoned them because they are being retrenched by Sibanye. Nobody's saying anything. But the same governing party which is in government is actually retrenching people. Which post offices are they closing? They are closing post offices in the townships, not in suburbs. They are retrenching workers in post offices. Why? SABC has retrenched. Eskom has retrenched. ISCO has retrenched.
So you're against retrenchment? We'll find out what
we
you
are
do about
against
it.
that.
Right, number four.
Number 4 or 3, we're going to act against drugs. When I was in Cuba with the late Jesse Duarte, may his soul rest in peace, and Sdumo Dlamini, the then president of COSATU, the Cubans taught us 2 things. They said, you have taken key decisions. Nationalization of the Reserve Bank and expropriation of land without compensation. They say, good luck. If you can implement that, you're going to have total, complete transformation of society. And they said, you know how they are going to kill your land and your nation? Through drugs. So we want to act against drugs. We have interacted with social workers, psychiatrists, psychologists, medical doctors. We will be unveiling our manifesto on the 18th of this month, just before elections.
Why are you leaving it that late?
Because
literally 10 days, 11 days before election.
Of course, because we wanted to still ring in the minds of South Africans.
But isn't it beyond just ringing? What I'm trying to say, and having been part of the engine room of the most dominant political party in the country for 30 years and more, right? That it's about mobilization. So it may be top of the mind in a week before the election, but that doesn't give you an opportunity of mobilizing people.
No, we have mobilized people. We have been on the ground. We want to move with people. We are the People's Party. So that when we unveil our manifesto, you will see that it is the views of our masses. And we want to break this convention, which people believe in, that you launch a manifesto at a particular time. We are a new party. We are unique. We're going to do things differently, but we vibrate with our people on the ground. And that's what we are actually going to do.
Okay. Is there one final point you want to make in terms of your party differentiation?
Well, one of the things is about landlessness. Our people are landlessness, homelessness. In South Africa, we have 62 million people, the population. 58 million are black people. 4.5 million is almost white people. 58 million don't own the means of production. The economy is not in our hands. It doesn't make sense. Property is not in the hands of 58 million. The economy is not in the hands of 58 million, which is really completely unacceptable. And there's no country where the indigenous people of that country are not the owners of the economy. We want to bring the shift, and you'll see how we're going to bring it, because we are not going to talk, we are going to act, and that's why we call ourselves African Congress for Transformation.
Okay.
We are about Africa. We are about the people who are and who have been marginalized in the global politics.
Okay, there we are. Don't talk the talk, but certainly act it out. And,
we're going to act.
That's the position of my guest, Ace Magashule, President of the African Congress for Transformation, or as they call themselves, ACT. Now, I'll take your calls. Obviously, we're going to have the news, we're going to have sport, and we're going to have marketing news coming up. Then we'll take calls, and therefore, if you need to WhatsApp in terms of voice note or text, maybe 30 seconds maximum per voice note, it'll help us. And then you can also call in maybe 2-3 calls if we can take them to 086 000 2032. But at the news desk now, heading it up is Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the headlines of this half hour, the IEC will in the coming days meet with other representatives of countries and the heads of the observer missions of the upcoming elections. SABC News understands that the respondents in the IEC's electoral court appeal on the MK party matter have filed a notice to oppose at the Con Court. And it's the time of the year for celebrating academic excellence at universities across the country. We'll have more on that story and other news at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
This is a dreadful queue that you're looking at if you're using the M1 South today from Buccleuch all the way down towards Randburg. It's a big crash scene just past the Malabongwe off-ramp. It's closer to the Malabongwe on-ramp, if you like. 2 lanes are closed there. The backlog now is pushed through Buccleuch and back up the M1 South mid-Rand. So just after Yatske River is where you'll see some tail lights, and you're not going to get out of those until you got right the way down through to Malabongwe. So alternative routes really should come into play, particularly if you need to get south of Randburg. That's important to think about alternative options and bypassing the M1 South. The queue is so heavy that you're going to sit on Rivonia Road, on Winnie Mandela and on Malabongwe Drive trying to get in to that N1 southbound carriageway. Just away from that, the N3 South looks like something around Edenvale. It's a pretty heavy queue backed up from Marlborough Drive down to the Modderfontein Road exit. R24 onto the N12 into Galuli is going very slow as well. Today's other major delays coming out of Pietermaritzburg on your way to Durban, a truck losing its load at Cliffdale. 1 lane open for all the trucks and vehicular traffic to squeeze into. The backlog is now beyond Shongweni. So if you're going Durban, Pietermaritzburg, think about Fields Hill, M13, Hillcrest, Old Main Road up through Drummond and Boters Hill and in Chunga, Cato Ridge. Come back on wherever you like, but come back on after Cliffdale because you'll just want to bypass that enormous backlog of traffic. And Cape Town, no traffic lights on the M7. Jake Scoville Drive at the R300, so very heavy going into Mitchell's Plain. And if you're wondering what all the traffic is about around the Belleville area, Carl Cronje is closed between Frans Conradi and Tygerberg Valley due to a big crash that's forcing a lot of traffic on local routes, particularly the Durban Road going to and from the N1 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you. This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, Tumi, we stopped at 4:30 around the issues of which football jerseys are number one. What's your big issue now?
Well, the big issue now is golf. Tiger Woods says that he still hopes to play 1 tournament a month for the rest of the year. This is despite his physical limitations in the wake of a 2021 car wash. The 15-time major champion drew huge crowds at the Masters last month, but his 16 over par total was the highest 72-hole score of his career, and it left him lost among the 60 golfers who made the cut at Augusta National. Even so, Woods indicated that he is looking forward to tackling the PGA Championship on the 16th of May with the US Open in June and the British Open at Royal Troon in Scotland in July. And if Woods can manage it, it will mark the first time since 2019 that he has played in all 4 major championships. So looking forward to seeing if he'll be able to achieve that. Then in football, Chelsea host Tottenham Hotspur tonight at Stamford Bridge. Bridge with hopes of breaking into the top 8 of the log. Spurs are 5th in the standings and have not been at their best in recent weeks, while the Blues, on the other hand, are 9th and have struggled over the past year. Chelsea defender Thiago Silva, who announced on Monday that he's leaving the club at the end of the season, is ruled out with a groin injury, while Tottenham forward Timo Werner will miss the remainder of the season because of a hamstring issue. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs captain Given Msimango says that he believes a win over Mamelodi Sundowns will make Amakosi fans believe in them again. Sundowns are looking to lift their record-extending 7th league title in a row tonight, with 17th overall championship titles in the history of South African football.
Not to use the word redeem, but I could say it's a match that will make a lot of supporters happy if we win. I think in terms of redeeming or putting the club back to where it ought to be, it's for us to win championships. Honestly, to win championship, you need to be consistent in winning your games. So I think it's a step towards that, winning this game, and not just this particular game. It's similar like the derby. You play a derby, it's entertaining, the fans are happy. Irrespective of what the scoreline is, people are always happy to watch the derby. So, same likewise with the Sundowns game. It's a massive game, game of history as well, rivalry between the two teams. So, you're looking forward to it. You're looking forward to entertaining the fans on the day and just giving out a good performance.
Well, kickoff is at 7:30. Then in rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus will now officially be known as Dr. Johan Rassie Erasmus. The 51-year-old was awarded an honorary doctorate by the Northwest University for his contribution to rugby. The inauguration took place at the Northwest University campus in Potchefstroom from 9:30 this morning. And under Erasmus, the Boks won back-to-back World Cups in the process, becoming the first team to win 4 World Cups in 1995, 2007, 2019 and 2023. Then finally, it's 85 days to go to the Paris Olympics, so thought I would just mention some interesting facts about the tournament, just specifically for those that don't watch the Olympics, so that we can, be in the fever of Olympics.
I'm going to be watching the Olympics.
Please do. Yeah. Ever wondered what the Olympic rings stand for? It's not just a logo. They are symbolic of 5 continents, and the colors were chosen because they all appear on the flags of all competing nations around the world. If you didn't know, well, now you know, and you can catch the action live on SABC Sport from the 26th of July to the 11th of August. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I will be on the sports show from 7 till 8 p.m. this evening. Other than that,
so here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.1 FM in Bombela.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, we're going to talk about the economy with Ace Makhashuli. Absolutely, because whatever else you're trying to do, if you can't get the economy right, you probably can't get anything right, isn't it? So with that in mind, the MoneyWeb Markets feature brought to you, well, Jimmy, as always, you take over. What's up today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to me. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, the show today, we're taking a look at PMI data. Purchasing Manufacturing Index data came in for the first time back in positive territory in a long time, suggesting that there might be a bit more optimism now that we haven't seen load shedding in its sustained form. But there is still a bit of concern around that because it's unclear how long this will last and how much optimism there is in the market as a result of that. We're also going to have a conversation with the guys at Allan Gray around the state of investing in frontier markets. Often there are opportunities that we miss out on and we don't really see, and we're going to look at that and try and pick out those opportunities in a difficult market environment that we find ourselves in. And then we've got a follow-up conversation to something that we've been tracking for quite some time, and that was the seizure that took place by the South African Reserve Bank of that 60 million rands worth of assets from a one Bedien Odendaal. They seized around 42.2 million in cash across various bank accounts and another 18 million rand property in the Western Cape. We're going to speak to a legal expert around that seizure because it didn't come as a result of a conviction the way they normally do, and it means something completely different now that the South African Reserve Bank has been able to legally seize this. So it sets a legal precedent, and we're going to dig into that and try and unpack where the money's gone, how the money can and can't be used, and what it all means for you and I as South Africans. And then Thursdays we have our SME of the Week feature, and we're taking a look at a company called Crosshair Media. I'm going to speak to the founder and CEO of the business to understand what they do and how they do it. But before we get to that, the markets have been moving in a rather odd fashion. We see that the oil price has been doing well, but not much else has been giving us cause for celebration. And Henku Kriya has been keeping an eye on those markets throughout the day. He joins me now to do a quick summary of the markets. Good afternoon, Henku. Thanks as always for keeping an eye on the markets. The Rand holding steady at 18 Rand 60, but for how much longer?
I don't know, but good evening to you, Jimmy, and hello, Ashraf and Tumi, and good evening to all the listeners. Not too sure, Jimmy, but let's see where it ends. It really was an odd day on the markets. For example, the US is trading well into the green, but the rest of the world is in the red. The Dow Jones and the S&P 500 at this stage gaining 0.5%, and then the Nasdaq 0.7% up. And in Europe, their stocks finished quite mixed. The FTSE 100 in London gained 0.7% today. But then the DAX lost 0.1% and the CAC 40 in France finished the day 0.7% weaker. And then the JSE, it lost a little bit, but I would say it finished more or less unchanged because it only lost 0.04% today, which really is nothing. But it finished at a little bit lower level of 76,047 points. Then the resources index lost quite a bit, 1.5% weaker. The financial index 0.02%, also unchanged. But then the industrial index tried its best to make up for all of this by gaining 0.8% today. And some of the reasons for that were Naspers and Prosus. Naspers and Prosus usually going hand in hand. Naspers finishing the day 3% stronger and Prosus 2.1% up. And there's also Standard Bank, which gained 2% today. But then BHP and Richmond each lost 1.5%. Glencore fell back by about 2.5%, and then AB InBev finished the day 3.5% weaker. Other companies that lost a bit more than that were the Life Healthcare Group, Oceana, Sasol, Netcare. The Life Healthcare Group finished the day 7% down, Oceana 5% down, Sasol lost 4% today, and Netcare finished the day 3.8% weaker. There's also Supergroup, which I see here, which finished the day 3.5% down. But back to some good news. SPAR had a great day and finished 4% up. Telkom gained 3.5%, and the MTN Group finished the day 2.5% stronger. There's also Exaro, Redefine, and Sappi, which each gained 2.3%. On the commodities market, the price of gold is now $2,305 an ounce. Silver is $26.70. Platinum $955, and then palladium is really falling like a rock these last couple of weeks and months. Palladium now well below the price of platinum and sitting at $940 an ounce. The price of Brent crude is $83 on the dot, and then the rand lost a little bit of strength today. You'll pay 18 Rand 62 for a US dollar now, then 23 Rand 26 for a pound, 19 Rand 90 for a euro, and 12 Rand 18 for an Australian dollar. Bitcoin also losing a little bit of value today, falling in price, now trading at $58,000, but that is still 1.1 million Rand. And that, Jimmy, is how the markets performed today.
Thank you very much for that update, Henku. I wonder if the BHP price movement has anything to do with the fact that they've deployed a senior team along with their CEO to come and try and get that Anglo deal over the line. But we'll dig into that a little later on. We'll also look at the fact that US markets are performing a lot better, probably as a result of what Fed Chair Jerome Powell had to say yesterday in his Fed meeting, or the FOMC meeting. We'll dig into those and other stories just after 6. For now, Ashraf, back to you and the team.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
And you listen to the MoneyWeb Market Show after 6, and then to me hosting the Sports Show, Top Sport, after 7. Do not miss out on that. My guest up to 6 o'clock is Ace Makashule, the president of the African Congress for Transformation, or as they've said, ACT Right. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take there's 2 voice notes I'm going to play, and I want to get your response to that. Then we'll talk further on. So, lots of talk about collaboration. I think early on you mentioned that we have points of differentiation but points of similarity. And here's a listener suggesting just that.
Good afternoon. Anonymous here from Pretoria. Please ask Mr. Isma Ashule. As much as I know that everybody's got the right to open or join the party of their choice, no problem. However, there are just too many political parties in this country now. So if this whole thing about opening parties is about saving the people, why can't all these Smolanyana parties that have now opened, all of them, if the new and the old, the likes of UDM, Rise Mzansi, Rise South Africa, BOSA, also Ace Mahashules and MK, why can't they get together, form one strong political party and take ANC out of government? Why don't they do that? Why? You know why? Because they all want to become leaders. They all want to have piece of the pie. That's the problem with that I have with these guys opening all these parties. Unfortunately, struggle credentials means nothing today. Don't tell me about struggle credentials. We're not struggling. We're not in apartheid now. We need basic services. Tell him that, please. The struggle credentials means nothing to the ordinary man. Thank you.
Okay, there you are. They've got the gist of it. Small Indianas coming together to oust the ANC. Does he not have a point?
Mr. Anonymous, I agree with you, and I've started saying struggle credentials. People don't care about our struggle credentials. They want service delivery. They want quality services.
So let's talk about the collaboration part.
Collaboration part, it's unfortunate. By the time it was too late, if we had consulted earlier on, I can tell you we were going to have fewer parties, because almost 8 of our parties met. Mm-hmm. By that time, we had all registered. And we had already had constituencies on the ground. I agree. We should have come together.
So why
and that's why beyond elections, we have agreed that we are going to work together with like-minded parties. But what pins that is ideology. Ideology is very important. You can't be...
Fair enough. So which are those parties then that will agree to come together? I mean, we got the DA pact already, if I want to call it that. You're not part of that. Right.
Well, the DA, and that's why I left the NC. Right. We have defined it as an ideological enemy.
Okay, who would be the parties that you've agreed
to? Well,
to?
MK will be a good party to work with.
Right.
UDM will be a good party to work with. ATM will be a good party to work with. The real struggle, freedom fighters, PAC, ASAPO. You have EFF, where we share nationalization of the bank, expropriation of land. You can see. And there are many others, but I'm just talking about...
So is there an actual agreement in place or a commitment to look at the position on May 30th or 1st of June?
There's commitment to work together. We are engaging, and the engagements will continue. And we are actually saying anybody who is there for our people, the hopeless, the jobless, the homeless, the people who have given up... people who can bring back the dignity of a black person, recognize black excellence and all that. Yeah, we'll all work together, bring back the land.
In the short term, before you even get to May 29 or 1st of June, it's getting a power base. So, for example, the MK party, there's been lots of talk that their established power base, where they're captains of that space or champions of that space, will be KZN. That's how it comes across. We'll know. Election time. What's your power base? And you need a power base.
You'll be surprised if I say my power base is Gauteng.
Okay.
You're going to say it's Free State.
I'm not saying anything. I'm really asking the question.
The power base is Free State. It's Northwest. It's Gauteng. I've spent many years in Gauteng. I was a teacher in the Vaal, 1984, Mokaka High School. I was a teacher in Paris. I was a paralegal here in Gauteng. I had 18 places of hiding during the years of struggle, from Tembisa to Vosloorus to Soweto to Rosettenville to Houghton to Berea to Yeoville to Alexandra. I stayed there, phase 2, phase 14.
But you see, when we say power base,
the power base, it's Free State.
Okay,
we are going to take that province, and I can assure you.
You're going to take it. You're going to win the province.
We're going to win the province.
So if I look, and I'm saying June the 1st, when maybe the results will come through, I should expect that your party would not only take the province, that the premier of the Free State would come from your party?
The premier of the Free State, the executive of the Free State, will come from African Congress for Transformation Act. You will see it is going to happen.
Why are you so confident?
Because I know each and every town, I know each and every ward, I know each and every village. I know people, I know professionals, I know business people, I know farmers, I know farm workers. I have touched every person in every town of the Free State. I've gone to white people, Afrikaners.
And they love you enough to want to vote for you and your party?
It's
what
not
I'm
just,
saying, knowing you is
it's
one
not,
thing.
It's not just knowing me and loving me. It's about the work we did, working with them. The farmers will tell you. And I've taken black and white farmers to Russia, to Belarus, to Bulgaria. You'll be surprised because the Free State is supposed to be the food basket of South Africa. And we're going to actually make it so. That's why I took a lot of students to Bulgaria for agro-processing, because we have to make sure that we beneficiate.
So Free State, according to you, is definite?
It's definite.
Right? And the other provinces you mentioned, Northwest?
Northwest, we are going to be the key maker in Northwest. Okay. In Gauteng here, we're going to surprise people, because we are very strong in the Val, we are very strong in Tshwane, we are very strong at Guruleni, we are working Soweto, Johannesburg, and we are still working the West Rand. Okay. But we are key, and I know every part of Gauteng.
Oh my, okay. Here's a comment from a listener.
Afternoon, Ashraf, this is Magdalene from Blue. I don't think a person from Bloemfontein around Mangaung will have his vote for Ismakashula's political party because of all the experiences that we had from Ismakashula. Getting unemployed, being removed from the offices with our potentials and our experiences, being put into poverty, being sidelined from business opportunities because of us being the Bloemfontein people. He hated us. Let him stay with his hatred. Magdalene from Bloem, thank you.
Okay, that's it. How do you respond to Magdalene?
Oh.
Let him stay with his hatred. You've cost him jobs, you've cost him positions.
I've studied voices.
Yeah.
This is one comrade I know. Let me not call his name. I know this comrade. Very bitter, because he's a comrade which at some stage when he was very ill-disciplined, he was actually disciplined by us as the ANC. Look, in Bloemfontein.
But do you think the person's lying there?
In Bloemfontein, most of the students we took to all South African universities, where do they come from? Mangaung. In large numbers, whether they are students who went to Cuba, who went to Russia, who went to Bulgaria, who went to India, who went to study, who went to almost 19 countries and all South African TVET colleges. Where do the majority come from? Medical doctors. Russia, Cuba, China. Where do they come from? Bloemfontein. The first streets we paved in Bloemfontein, a Batu location where the ANC was born. The first 50 and 60 square meters houses we built, which no province actually had. Different models.
Okay, but now you're working outside the ANC. Remember that.
I'm telling you, because that person says during our time, ask the students, ask the hopeless, ask the people who are unemployed, ask those who did not have matric where they are, ask the black business people and the white business people what we have actually done. Ask them about Suelele Samasele, the stadium we built in Bloemfontein, Dr. Molemela Stadium. Because I had to start there, because that's where the population is.
Okay, got
ask
that.
the people of the Free State, townships which had no roads, ask them how many we have paved completely.
I just remember going to Mangaung a while back. I never saw so many potholes in my life. But anyway, that's
you see
one
them
thing.
now. You see
This
them
thing
now.
change. I need to visit.
You can't blame me now. Let's go and work and see what we have done. Even agri villages, the Atalawa and the Velemina in Ficksburg.
Okay, having said that, right, you yourself admit that we have massive problems in the country.
Massive.
And by and large, you've been part. I'm not wanting to talk about the ANC. I'm talking about leadership.
We mustn't talk about the ANC.
But you've been part of a leadership that has been running this country. Now, if we were talking in I don't know, if you're talking in football or rugby terms, you'd say if the team underperforms, you fire the coaches, right? So the argument would be, on the issues of land that you make claims, on the issues of impoverishment, on the issues of jobs, on the issues generally of our education system and our failing healthcare. Most of the people fall within the ruling party, and then people like yourself who may be outside of it now, including former President Jacob Zuma. Your heritage still belongs to that. That means your leadership heritage, your track record is that party and that organization. So if people are critical of your chances of service delivery, that would be understandable.
No, remember how many years I spent in the Free State and what we did as ANC then and as the leader. Because if you don't have a visionary leadership collective, you can't do anything. And remember, I became the National Secretary General. And in my time, I went to places and I said, but what has our movement done to our people? You go to Northern Cape. That population is so small, but that province, people can talk and say whatever. Go to those areas. I was in Alwal North. Here, people don't even have toilets for that matter. They go to the veld. And I said, here. So these things are things I saw when I became Secretary General. And when they saw me ascending with radical positions, which we were going to implement, what did the people who did not want radical transformation did? They removed me.
You think you were pushed out for that reason? Not issues of corruption? There's a trial you face next month.
You know that trial, if I have to talk about it, because we'll summon people in that trial. So let's not worry about that trial.
But people want to vote for you, but can you say?
It's a political trial because, number one, what am I charged with? The media says 73 charges. There are 3 charges against me. Number one, which they say is key, is oversight. What is it? What is oversight in criminal law? Number 2, assisting students, 2 and 3. Those are the only charges. Guess what? 48 witnesses, no witness against me. They tried my PA. They tried to force her to sign and implicate me.
USA right
in
now.
US, they are harassing her and all that. The poor young girl is studying. But she refused because I did not do anything.
Okay. Time is against us.
Time is just against us. Are
you saying that when the trial comes up and moves on, at some stage you're going to smile and laugh and say, Ashraf, I told you so. Look, nothing happens.
South Africans, I want to assure you, the people of the Free State knows me. Don't talk about the media. I have not taken a cent. And I said to the media, you know what, if you want to know people who have taken a cent, analyze each and every leader, check where they stay, how they live, what are their children having and all that. And you tell me that a freedom fighter who is now today a multi-billionaire, a billionaire without having worked. At least I was a teacher. At least I was a paralegal. I worked for my money. People who have not worked, they are in board of conglomerates.
So if someone tells you directly to say, Ace Makashule, you're a crook. You're a corrupt crook who's undermined the country. And when we talk about state capture and the level of destruction we're facing in the country, there are many people involved, but Ace Makashule, you're one of them.
I'm saying,
what do you say?
I am not. You believe in the universal law. You say a person is innocent until proven otherwise. Please believe in me. I have not taken a cent. This is a story created by those who actually against us, who wants to change the life of a black person and those who are marginalized.
All right. How do you see the country shaping up post this election? There are different parties. First of all, do you see, as many suggest, that the ANC will not get 50%?
Well, it was not me. It was a young man called Mbalula, who said the ANC is going to get less than 30%. And remember, this man is the Secretary General of the ANC. It's not coming from me. And as I look, if you finish the ANC in the Free State, if you finish it in Gauteng, they have one majority seat in the legislature. when there was no trouble, when there were no several parties, so the Gauteng is gone.
Okay, so what do you think is going to happen? And what about your party? We've got about a minute and a half to go, amazingly, so you can see I'm rushing it. What do you think will happen in terms of your party, and how will the country shape up?
There are provinces we are going to lead as majority party. We are going to be in coalition with a like-minded, and I hope it's coalition with a conviction. It's people with principles, with ideology, who actually want us to take the 58 million out of poverty. 58 million since 30 years of freedom.
And how do you think the country will shape up in June?
It's going to be tough because where there are coalition at times, things don't work out. But I believe in South Africans. I believe in Africanism. And I can tell you, we are going to change South Africa for the better.
Let's end with this. We only got 40 seconds left. On the issue of growing the economy, creating jobs, and dealing with the allegations around foreigners, etc., and issues of land, how do you want to address that?
I believe in one human race. So I don't want to talk about foreigners. It's another thing for our manifesto, because you never talk about white foreigners. I don't hear anybody talking about white foreigners. We belong to a continent. We are Africans. We belong to Africa. We belong to this continent, a beautiful continent. And if the continent can unite, we're going to be a major player in global politics.
Okay, 30 seconds, the economic policy that you want to implement.
Well, I have said no privatization. I've said we want jobs. I've said we don't want people to rely on 350. We're going to actually make sure that our people, we create, we beneficiate, we manufacture, we do all these other things. And we end load shedding, because it does actually disrupt job economy. We want to act against water shedding. Those are key things. And we want to give our people...
Who should lead the country as part of a coalition?
Well, I can't talk about other parties when we have a party. African Congress for Transformation.
President of South Africa?
I have never had ambitions to be...
But would you if you asked?
Well, it's up to the people. We have listened.
But the coalition will decide that.
We will act. Whatever we decide, I will go with what we
you won't say no.
I won't say no to anything for as long as we are saving our people, and we are on the ballots.
Okay. Well, we know that.
Act wherever you are.
Well, there you are. Ace in the pack, yes or no. It's up to you, the listener and the voter, to decide. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated. Ace Magashule, President of the African Congress for Transformation. Heading up the news desk is Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, IEC to meet with observer missions and MK Party to oppose electoral court appeal. Good evening. We begin with election news. The IEC will in the coming days meet with other representatives of countries and the heads of the observer missions of the elections in South Africa. In an interview with the SABC, the US Ambassador Ruben Brigady had said that the US will not interfere with the election